Good evening. This is the Nevada Unified School District School Board. Tonight's March 30. It's 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. We're meeting in open session. So the first thing I'd like to do is pledge allegiance. So you join me in the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The next item is any report or reportable action from closed session.
There are no items to report this evening.
Thank you very much, Trustee Gessen. The next item of business is to approve the order of business for this evening's meeting. So approval of order of business, I have a motion from the trustee.
I'll make a motion.
Trustee Aguilar makes a motion. Second. Trustee Nell, second. Thank you. All in favor? Order, student trustees? No? Yes? Well, we're, okay, good. Two from the student trustees. Okay. Before we go forward, I want to, well, that's okay. Let's just keep going. So public comment on consent agenda. Are there any items on consent agenda that the trustees, that we have any comments from public comment first? No comments from the public. Now, trustees, are there any items you would like to pull, or let me get some notes. I think I got to make some notes here. Trustee Butler.
I just need to recuse myself from two of the items, 12D and 12G.
12D and 12G.
Yeah.
Is there any other item trustees want to pull, Diane?
Item 12F.
12F?
Yes, please.
Any other items to be pulled? So I'll take a motion for the consent agenda for all of the consent items except D, G, and F.
We also have some changes at the table. President Miller.
Oh, and that is correct. There are two revisions. So consent item 12D, there was this a spelling correction on 12D?
Yes. Yes, small typo.
Yes, that was a spelling check. And then the consent item 12C for King Consulting, we were going to have them review 3 campuses instead of 2 campuses. So the contract is revised to speak to 3 campuses instead of 2. So that's 12C and 12D revised. So I need a motion for all items except items D, G, and F, and with the revisions of items C and D as I just identified.
I'll move adoption of the consent agenda without items C, D, F, G, and Z. C and D being amendments to the existing.
Is that clear to everybody? Okay, so all in favor of those items on the consent agenda? So 7 members here, student trustees, 1, 2 are C2. Okay, so then we'll take item F. We're going to try to go through these right now. See if
Did you get a second for that?
Did we get a second? I thought.
I'll second it.
Pardon me. So Derek Nell first. Greg second. And now we vote. My apologies. I'm 7 and 2 trustees voting, and student trustees in favor. Okay. Now do I have it correct? Did I get it right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to take up item 12F. Well, let's do that. 12F. Diane, I think you pulled 12F. You want to speak to it?
Yes, no, so I just wanted to ask about the purchase for furniture on one of the locations being on the list for potential school closure. So I just wanted to understand.
Yeah, Trustee Gasson, I'd like to introduce Mike Woolard to address this piece and potential changes that might be possible with this.
Thank you. So Trustee Gasson, just to understand, you're wondering what some of the implications are if we move ahead with furniture on a campus that's potentially listed as one to be closed, or did you just want more amplified information?
Correct. No, it's identified specific to that location. And so what would what is the outcome if we prove this tonight and then want that campus? I'm not suggesting that it is, but since it's.
No, understand. So now I get it. Thank you for clarifying. So basically, if we get approval tonight to order the furniture, and just so the board knows, we need to order this soon to meet the kind of timeline for manufacturing combined with the COVID impacts of supply and delivery. So if we order now and that campus does get approved to be closed, we can reuse that furniture at another elementary school site, as we are standardizing the classroom furniture, starting with Olive and Linwood through this furniture order. And in the summer of 2022, we are planning to order the same furniture for the rest of the elementary schools. So if we needed to move this furniture from, say, the Linwood campus as an example to another campus, that can easily be done. Staff would recommend we continue this because our pricing per unit was based on volume of order. And if we cut the order in half, we would probably incur additional costs for that remaining school sites furniture.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yep. So I move to approve item 12F, the approval to purchase new classroom furniture for the modernization project at Linwood Elementary and Olive.
Second. Trustee Jacobson, second. All in favor? 7 in the room, and the student trustees? 2, yes. And we'll get to your names in a minute, okay? The next two items, 12D and 12G.
Children's Center.
12D and 12G are both in the Hamilton area, and because that's where Trustee Butler lives, she's going to recuse herself. So I need a motion for these two items, and then we can move. Anybody prepared to make a motion on 12G and 12D? Trustee Matt?
I'll second.
12G and 12D.
Okay, and second by Maria Aguilar. Okay, with that, these are the ones, the NBCC sewer easement, and one's the grounds maintenance building issue. So all in favor of these two items? We have 6 in the room in favor. Trustee Butler is recusing. Any student trustees in favor? Both student trustees are in favor, and opposed? None opposed. So 12C. Okay, so we already adopted 12C and 12D because we took them as revised, but I apparently have a consent item. I have 2 comments, consent items, so I'm going to take the 2 consent items and hear the public comment on these. The fact is we've already approved these items, but we'll listen to the. So could you please put the 2 consent speakers on?
Hello.
Hi.
Are you after comments? Okay. So my comment is, my name is Casimir Adler. I'm a teacher at Nevada High School, and I'm writing to share the concern I have over the recommencement of full in-class teaching in high school starting 12th April 2021. The board has determined that all students not enrolled in VLA shall be present in class. A student who is not in VLA but present on Zoom shall be deemed absent unless they have a valid excuse.
So I'm going to reschedule your comment time to the opening, which is not item 12C. They put you down in the wrong category. You're speaking to a maintenance contract for a consultant company. So
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm speaking as a teacher at Nevada High.
I understand your role in our district, and thank you for doing that work. But the item that they put you on is to talk about something that is not relevant to what you're speaking to.
President Miller, if I may. Hi, Kaz. How are you?
Hi.
Kaz, we are on part of the agenda where we're taking public comment on the consent agenda. I believe what you are wanting to speak to is an agendized item. So we are going to reprioritize your comment for that agenda item in hopes that you can speak on it depending on the number of comments we've received. So we're hoping that's okay with you.
Okay,
Fantastic. Thank you.
that's fine. I'll hope to speak then.
Yep, no, that would be great. We want to hear your voices. Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay, so we're good with 12C because that's already been approved.
Wait.
Oh, one more. Okay, we're checking to make sure we're speaking to the item, the contract. Kaz, thank you very much. Well, this Zoom thing is a little bit clumsy. I apologize to everybody on the call. At least.
Michelle, can you hear us?
I can. Sorry, I just wasn't able to type fast enough to respond to you.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello. I may be in the wrong spot, but I wanted to speak to the recent decision by the 7-Eleven committee to include Linwood Elementary as one of the 3 proposed closures. So if that's not consent agenda, I apologize.
I'm going to move you to a different item.
Very good.
Because this is about some consulting contract, which is just their scope of work. Which item would she properly speak to?
She'd be non-agenda.
So non-agenda public comment. So I'm going to, once we finish the consent agenda, then we'll hear you for non-agenda public comment, which is item 8.
Thank you.
Item 8. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry for the confusion. Welcome to public meetings. Okay. So I think we're done with all the items on the consent agenda. We already adopted item 12C and 12D because we adopted them in the motion for the whole consent item because we said it as revised. So we have, I believe, we have every consent item approved by the board. Anybody think that's wrong?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. So the next item, we're going to move past the consent item number 5. We're going to move into student presentations. And Jonathan, would you like, so first of all, to be clear, 2 things. Jonathan Frere is serving as our acting superintendent. Chris Koska is out of the district on personal leave. And so Jonathan is managing the district for this week in his absence. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, President Miller. I just want to clarify, Superintendent Koska is on furlough leave and not on any other leave. So that's why he's not here today. I'm happy to sit in and be here with all of you.
Furlough is every employee is taking a furlough week, is that?
No, so the board has asked Superintendent Koska way back in an earlier meeting to take 8 furlough days to help support the district's financial outlook picture. He obliged to that. And this week is taking 5 of those 8 furlough days. The district has 0 expectation for any employee on furlough to provide any service to the district, and that's what furlough means. So he is not here today, but I am glad to step in as the acting superintendent this week on his behalf.
Thanks, sir.
Great. So President Miller, thank you so very much. We often do not hear from Marin Oaks and Hill Education Center, as we often don't see them as a traditional school site in the district, but they are. And they're doing some fantastic and amazing work under the leadership of Principal Kessa Early. So I'd love to introduce her for the presentation at Hill and Marin Oaks.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So we created a video just so that you can kind of see what remote learning looks like. what remote learning looked like, because now we're so excited to finally have our kiddos back on campus, but what remote learning looked like during this last year. And so you're going to see 3 different classes. We've got the Culinary Academy, and then we have our Bridges program. And then to get us prepared back for in-person learning, our art class created the social distancing dots, and we were able to have our students spray paint our campus. And so what kid gets to say that they were able to spray paint their campus? So it was pretty exciting. So I think you guys have the video. Are you going to show it?
And the cost is the average cost after aid is $17,699. Using information, it's 51% students living on the campus.
Student life. Roller Hockey Club is a club to join. UCSB has Division II soccer. Psychology is a popular major at UCSB. Why people choose Santa Barbara is because of the parties and because of the beaches that are very next to the school.
Bradley, I know you have one. Let me know what it is.
Well, we usually cruise. Can I use cruising as
Oh, absolutely. Oh, go ahead. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, technically when you get...
Yeah, actually, I have multiple situations. I worked at a place called Thorsten's Auto Body for a while, and there we would be working on cars, and some of us would be working together. And because I was an apprentice at the time, so I was always working with someone, and usually we'd work in like pairs of 3 or 4 if it's like a sort of a bigger project. So I've had a lot of experience with working with a team and like having to take orders and also having to ask for help or ask questions all the time. And
here it is. It's Wednesday afternoon, and we're preparing for the cooking class tomorrow. I am sorting all the food that we shop for. We're doing individual bags for COVID, and then the kids come to school and pick it up. Tomorrow we're having Philly cheesesteak sausage sandwiches. We're actually live in the cooking class right now. If you pan over here, that's the Zoom meeting. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids over there, and they're all making the same meal as me at the same time. And then when we're finished, we're gonna eat, and they're gonna take pictures of these massive Philly cheesesteaks, and then they send me all the pictures.
I've learned a lot on how to cook from Mattern.
What was your favorite meal so far?
The empanadas, it's kind of like, it was more kind of like hands-on, like making the dough, kind of fun.
So I'm here with Josh Piper and Johnny Pryor, and they're gonna tell you a little bit about the culinary program as well. Josh, why don't you go first?
Well, the culinary class is like a really cool class if you want to learn how to cook, or like if you really just like cooking. Like my favorite food that we made so far probably was the, I forget what it was called, but we made like the bread from scratch, and like we put like meat and stuff inside the bread.
Jamaican beef patty.
Yeah, that was really good.
like every Thursday, I always look forward to cooking. I love cooking, but it's just like, I don't know, it's a really cool program, good food. Like I always learn something every time I'm in class. And my favorite food too, as I was about to say, the Jamaican beef patties, they were so good and they were so easy to make. Like I just want to make them all the time.
I'm right-handed. I put a glove on my left hand. I have gloves. And so that this hand can be right in the line of fire there. You can hold it down where you're going to spray. And if you come in close.
Yeah.
I like your cardboard box idea.
Ooh, fancy.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Kessa.
Yeah, thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Questions for?
Can I just say, I love the way you pivoted the culinary program. I know that seemed so cumbersome to try and teach something that's so hands-on, but you guys really found a way to make it happen. And I'm just inspired by the way you are so student-focused and then simultaneously outside the box thinking. It's really great. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you so much. That I have to give absolute and total credit to our teacher, Mr. Mattern. He was right in front of it, and we barely skipped a beat. I was so impressed with what he was able to manage, and this particular semester we were able to offer it to a Novato, I think 2 Novato high school students and 1 San Marin student. So that's kind of neat. We're expanding a little bit.
Nice.
Oh, Marie.
Actually, I was gonna say, I'm very hands-on kind of person, and so like when I try to copy a recipe of YouTube or something, it's just it's difficult. So I can't wait for you guys all to get back in and really just get your hands all dirty. So, but meantime, thanks for all the hard work you guys are doing, and it can't be easy, but I thank you.
I know the families appreciated this version better because in the in-person version, we feed the whole school. But for this version, the remote learning, they are able to feed their families every Thursday night. So that was pretty neat for them.
Trustee Gasson.
I was actually waiting for the dog to get a bite too. I just wanted to say, I'm always looking at how our lives have changed through the pandemic. And one of the cool things was taking the opportunity to be creative with the spacing dots. So that's what I presume that those were.
Yeah.
Those were so amazing and pretty. And so what a great opportunity to take something that needs to be done and making it more beautiful and creative. So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. I was really pleased with how those turned out. We wanted to have the student buy-in and make it look pretty because the little green or blue dots is, so like, let's make it fancy.
And who doesn't want to use spray paint? I mean,
Okay, good. Are we good for this? Tessa, thank you so much. It's always great to see your students presenting. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
So the next item is announcements of boards and superintendents. And this evening we have 2 other board members, student board members joining us. So Kiki Bravo from San Marin High School and Michael Griffin from Novato High School are standing in for their peers for this evening's conversation. So to be clear about how this board works, 7 of us that are sitting here stand for election before the community, and we get elected, run for office and get elected to serve in this seat. And we vote, and those votes count towards the resolutions. In addition, in this district, we ask 3 student board members to come forward, 1 from each of the 3 high schools in the district. And this evening, 2 of them have joined us. Those students do not have the power of the vote in terms of deciding matters because they were not elected by the community, but they fully participate in the dialogue and the conversation because for many items that we talk about, life on campus is critical. And in the future, when we step away from this table, they are the citizens of this country that are going to be stepping forward into these roles. So the sooner they engage in public process, the better it is for our whole society. So we're going to go, and in addition, they have an additional duty at this time, which is to give us the status of the campus life and how it's going, which the 7 of us are here in this room don't have access to. So we're going to go around and each trustee is going to do a presentation, but we're going to start with the student trustees, which will be, I hope, personal introduction since I have personally not met either of you, and then a status of your campus as well-being and progress towards fully opening the campus. So I will start with, since they're in alphabetic order on my piece of paper, Kiki Bravo. If I got your name pronounced correctly, give me a gold star. If not, correct me.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, my name is Kiana Bravo. Everyone calls me Kiki, so I just go by Kiki. I am here on behalf of Elizabeth. I do have a statement from her and from I as well. I'm also here on behalf of our campus's equity team. I was planning on attending this meeting anyway, so I filled the spot for Elizabeth. So last week we had our school was overflowing with school spirit, and it was nice like to have a change for once, like through COVID and all of this. We saw a lot of our seniors on Wednesday. There was a movie night on the football field with a massive inflatable projector, and the homecoming candidate videos were shown there, and a choreographed dance were performed by our candidates. On Thursday, we had a homecoming parade on campus that was COVID safe, and it was efficient and had a great turnout of senior parents and students. And finally, we had our homecoming game on 3/27, and we won against Novato 51-7. For the next month of April, we will be posting school announcements for Autism Awareness Day and team driving safety infographics in our announcements to educate our students on other relevant topics. Do you want the statements said after Michael goes?
No, you can just keep going and that'd be fine.
Okay, perfect. So this is the statement that Elizabeth has written. It says, I wanted to emphasize the fact that resulting after my analysis of the resolution number 23, supporting people of Asian ancestry and condemning harassment, violence, and hatred towards people of Asian descent, I was thoroughly pleased to see what the school board focused upon something like this on the agenda. The concept of scapegoating is nothing new within our history, and it is vital that we recognize it as a society that this is a critical issue, affecting friends and neighbors in our own Bay Area communities. It's not going away unless we band together to prevent the spread of hate. Just 2 weeks ago, the March 16th Atlanta hate crimes were yet again another warning sign to call to action, enforcing the idea of a nation against prejudice. As a school board member, we can do our parts in always holding our friends, our words to this document, and showing up for our friends that need us. To the AAIP folks in the community, I want to let you know that I will always respect you, value you, and cherish you through the strife of our nation faces at this time. As an NUSD student board member, I am happy to see my school district learn and grow with these agreements, acting as one on the basis of our district morals. To the board, let's always honor this resolution because that is how we move forward. Thank you for adopting this document. It will always have my support. Sincerely, Elizabeth Druva.
Thank you.
So this is my personal statement that I was planning to read tonight in the public comment before Elizabeth asked me to fill in for her. I was present for the last meeting when the decision on SROs was supposed to be made, and as a student who was supposed to be represented in this board, my voice has never felt more silenced. Hearing some board members decide the direct opposite of what BIPOC students have been saying shows me that personal bias reigns supreme over the safety and comfort of our students of color. It's appalling to see how little this board has done to uphold the anti-racist resolution that you agreed to, and then try to keep up a system that has proven time and time again to disproportionately affect students of color. Removing SROs should have been a priority. Oh, I'm sorry. Removing SROs should have been a priority of the last meeting, and student voices should have been amplified. White-splaining of issues that BIPOC face is very harmful and is very disrespectful to the students of color in your community. And to tell them that the reality that they didn't get to choose is just a perception. As representatives, I would suggest that when making this decision to disregard personal relationships and think about the lasting generational trauma that you'd be perpetuating, keeping a system like this alive in our school district. Changing the relationship between BIPOC and law enforcement will not happen on our terms. This is an issue that will not be fixed overnight. And it's the job of the community law enforcement to do their part in dismantling the system on their own, not forcing BIPOC students to be okay with being uncomfortable in a place where they are made out to be safe. Thank you so much for your time, and I urge you to make the right choice in listening to your student voices. Thank you.
Thank you for standing in for Elizabeth. Michael?
Thank you, Kiki, and thank you, Trustee Miller, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I want to do a quick introduction since this is my first time here. My name is Michael Griffin, and I'm a junior at Novato High School. My fellow student board member, Eva Gogus, couldn't make it to today's meeting, so I'm filling in as her alternate student board member. I'm excited to be here tonight as I've been working with the other student board members behind the scenes throughout this school year, and I've even watched several board meetings from the sidelines. With that being said, here are some updates from Novato High School. Wellness Week has kicked off this week, and our school hosted online and in-person opt-in wellness sessions today and yesterday to help educate students on topics ranging from yoga to social justice and mental health. Tomorrow, all students will be participating in, or sorry, not tomorrow, or oh wait, yes, tomorrow, sorry. All students will be participating in Cognito training as part of Wellness Week, featuring a realistic computer simulation in which students can learn how to support peers struggling with mental health issues. In other news, class shirts for the 2021-2022 school year are in the works. After spring break, our school will be having a spring egg hunt on April 12th. Also after spring break, we will be having a recycling war for 2 weeks in which the class with the most recycled items donated will receive 10 spirit points. Seniors are currently working on hosting a movie night modeled after San Marin's successful movie night last week. Our senior sweatshirt design contest is open until April 5th, where the school will then vote on the best design. Students are excited for spring break next week, and many are looking forward to our modified return to in-person learning after spring break.
Well,
Thank you.
very much. You done? Or I don't mean to catch up. You done?
Yeah, I also had statements about the Asian American Pacific Islander agenda item.
One statement, is that correct? Yes, one.
I have a statement from Eva, but I was planning on waiting until the agenda item.
You're welcome to wait. Yep, you're welcome to wait. So we're going to move down to the trustees, Maria Aguilar. So I'll take your Michael's statement later as that item comes up. Thank you, Michael.
Good evening. So I participated in the Not in Our Town event that was with the webinar, and got to listen to a lot of different inputs. And I'd like to thank Jonathan Ferrer for being in charge of that event and taking over and doing a great job. And I think that's it. I think that's it.
Trustee Jenkins.
Hi. Over the past couple of weeks, I've had a lot of conversations with community members regarding the topics that we've had at hand lately and watching the 7-Eleven committee.
Cool. Trustee Nell.
No comments to make.
Trustee Matt.
I also sat in on the Not in Our Town presentation. Once again, I'd like to thank Jonathan for being an important part of that voice and of that group, and as well watch the 7-Eleven committee, and I'm very supportive of the efforts that they're making. These folks are really doing a hard job, and really impressed with their taking it as seriously as they are and really getting right down to the facts. And also King Consulting doing a great job of presenting them with really solid information. So I'm really happy with the way this is proceeding so far in terms of the process, and look forward to their recommendation, and then comes to us.
Thanks, sir. Trustee Butler.
Yes, I also participated in Not in Our Town Novato virtual speaker series is what they're calling it. It had a great panel of students, I thought, well represented and diverse from Novato High and San Marin. They spoke the truth, and I really appreciated that. And I was keenly listening to the comments made, and it was done very well. Thank you, Jonathan, and to Sharon Kenny as well. You both moderated very well, and you try to get the voice of every student, and that was appreciated. So I was listening intently. Also, just Marin County Office of Ed and Marin County Public Health had their update last Tuesday, and I listened to that. That's where we went into the orange tier. We moved to 3 feet distance between students. Barriers are not necessary. So we were hearing all of that as that rolled out in that community conversation. And then just a shout out to, again, to our PTA boards and site councils. Is that time of year where they need parents to step up and participate beyond PTA boards, as a secretary, a president, a vice president. As I read through schools' emails or newsletters, they're reaching out to their communities looking for volunteers in those positions, and also site council. So for all the emails we received all year long from parents, I know there's parents that want to be involved. So where you can be involved is stepping up with your PTA boards and your site councils, because that'll give you a wealth of information of what is happening here at this table. You'll make the connection. And if you want to know what's going on, participate in those groups. And it'll be well worth it. And you make your school better when you participate, when you're hands-on. So please do that if you have the time to commit to that. That's it.
Trustee Gasson.
So I too watched the MCOE and Marin County Public Health COVID-19 update. I always find them really interesting and helpful for people that haven't had an opportunity to see them. They are recorded and are located at marinschools.org under, I think there's a reentry tab or a site-based instruction, I think, or no, remote. I don't know. There's a section specifically where those are all found. So as Trustee Butler mentioned, there were a lot of great updates that came from the most recent one. I also attended a special education committee meeting where we reviewed the survey results from the recent survey that had gone out to families, and I appreciate the family members who participated and had their voice in that survey. We also discussed what we're going to do with that data, and much like what we do with Youth Truth, that's going to be a benchmark for future surveys going forward. So I'm very happy to see that work and hearing from our community. The 7-Eleven committee, I wanted to recognize, as other trustees have mentioned, the hard work that those members are putting into all those hard decisions that are looking at all the information to make those really hard decisions. So I do appreciate all the work that's being done on that. I also just wanted to mention I had my second vaccine on Saturday, and I was thrilled to see NUSD staff there. I went through my 15 minutes plus because I was talking to a couple of teachers that were there. So thank you to everyone who's volunteered to help support getting those vaccines to our community. And I will actually be there again on Saturday. So hopefully
Volunteering to make sure people can get access.
Yes, I volunteered on the prior one, and so I'm going again to volunteer on this coming Saturday. So I love it because I see my kids' teachers and coaches, and just it's great to see everybody there. And that's it.
2 items for me. I attended the county review on the 23rd, where Dr. Willis reviews with Mary Jane Park the status of health in the county. And as anybody who's watching the national news, the infection rates are starting to spike back up in certain parts of the country because people are not being as careful as the CDC is hoping they will be, and has encouraged all the governors across the United States to reinstitute mask mandates to make sure that this thing doesn't take off again and we get a third spike going forward. But we seem to be, here we are with masks on in this room, and our students are coming back on campus April 12th, and that's really exciting. The other thing I'd like to point out is just second what Trustee Butler said, this school district and this community works because people choose to be involved in their community and their children and their children's lives. And there's 7 of us sitting here this evening, but there's hundreds and hundreds of volunteers on each and every campus through PTA or sports boosters or other programs that bring vitality to this district. Think about something that you can give back to your community, and maybe the right thing for you to give back is participation in one of these organizations to make sure you got a voice in how our community goes forward, and you've got a chance to participate in your children's lives in a meaningful and supportive way. So I would encourage all of you to think about how can you be a voice in this town to make sure that this community, Novato, continues to be driven by a small town, support my kids, opportunities for all ethic. That's how I got roped into this, and it's been a wonderful opportunity, and I hope you see the opportunity yourself as well. So I think that's, Jonathan, pardon me, I Turn my head. We need a status report from our acting superintendent.
Thank you, President Millerick. I just a couple of announcements and appreciations. I first want to thank all of our staff out there, particularly our classroom teachers, our support staff, and our management and administrative staff. I know you all have been working really hard this year in this unprecedented year, and I know you have all been asked to now make the shift to modified full return on April 12th. So just know that your appreciation, your efforts, your commitment, your dedication, flexibility, all of those great things to our students and our community is very much appreciated. So thank you all out there for putting in that great work and excellent work that really speaks about who we are as Novato Unified School District. I also want to thank our partners and our scholars who participated again in the Not in Our Town Youth Speaker Series. A special thank you to Sharon Kenny, Novato High School teacher who co-facilitated the event with me. Very much appreciated. Again, that continues throughout this year, our continued conversation about the role that race plays in our schools. Our community is dealing with a couple of heavy topics now as we are hearing these comments regarding school resource officers and the potential for school closure through the work of the 7-11 committee. So I want to thank everyone in our community who's providing us with comments, opinions, and insight to help really inform our thinking and eventually any decisions that we have to make. I want to make it clear to our community regarding the SRO conversation that no decision has been reached. We continue to receive feedback and hear from members of our community on both sides on that decision, and we will be bringing that back to the board in a couple of months, I believe. Those in the 7-11 committee, echoing what some of the trustees have already said, thank you for your hard work and the difficult decisions that you are having to make and recommendations you are having to make. We really appreciate that work. It is not easy work. For the 3 schools that were potentially identified for further discussion, Lou Sutton, Linwood, and Rancho, please know that our executive team will be meeting with you all after spring break for some community circles to listen to all of you and your concerns and to hopefully alleviate some of the concerns that you might have. So we will be virtually meeting with those school sites after spring break. I also want to make it clear that there's maybe some thinking out there in our community that because a school is potentially closed by the district, that it also means that any programs that are being housed at that school are also closed. So I want to make that clear that that is not the case. Specialized programs are not dependent on the actual school site. The district has the opportunity to move specialized programs to different locations, to reorganize or restructure them so that they can continue. So I just want to hopefully alleviate some concerns out there that if individuals are thinking that specialized programs at these school sites potentially up for closure, if those school sites are closed, those programs most likely will continue at a different site or in some other form. So I just wanted to make that clear. Lastly, a couple of just appreciations on the retirements that we have this evening on the Personnel Action Report. Principal Dana Sedan of Pleasant Valley is retiring from the district. Thanking her for her 8 years of leadership over at Pleasant Valley. And one of our classified business employees, Rini Bracken, has been with the district for 29 years, is also going to be retiring this year. So those are the ones that are on our personnel action report this evening. But thank you to all, of course, the retirees and separations. We'll be acknowledging those at an upcoming board meeting. And a selfish announcement for me, Cindy Cannon, who is the executive assistant to the Human Resources Department and was also doing that role in the business office. Her last day is tomorrow. She is retiring from the district. She wanted a very quiet exit, but I would be upset with myself if I didn't take this time to thank Cindy for all the work that she's given in the district. A lot of the operational documents and things that we see here at the board meeting are all due to Cindy's leadership. So she will be greatly missed, and we wish her we wish her well in her retirement plans. Thank you, President Miller.
Thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda is a non-agenda public comment. This is a time for people to make comments about items that are not on the agenda. And we have in the past allowed 20 minutes on the clock for 3 minutes per speaker, which turns into like 6 or 5, depending on how we get through that. And so somebody suggested it would be easier, like we did last time, where we said we'll take a fixed number, 6 or 7, and we will, that way it's more deterministic for the staff, so they know they get through the 6 or 7, and then we would cut off public comment, and the rest of the public comment would be written documents that come to the board. So that, but it time boxes the activity. So my question to this board is, do we want to take 20 minutes on the clock, 3 minutes each? Or do we want to say specifically we're going to take, like we did last time, 7, it varied, a specific number of presenters. And I'm fine with either one. If I don't hear anything, I'm going to go with 20 minutes. That's what
President Miller, if I may just inform the board, we have 11 non-agenda public comments today to help inform your decision.
Oh, okay, thank you, sir. So we have 11 public comments queued up. So, so we're going to end up getting about through half of them if we do the 20-minute on the clock model. And if I'm hearing nothing, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 20 minutes on the clock, 3 minutes apiece, and we're going to start. And when we run out of clock time, then that'll be the last speaker. Okay. So first.
Bob, you're on.
Hello, my name is Bob Kobe. As a parent of a Lou Sutton student, I am speaking to you on behalf of another parent who wishes to remain anonymous. As you know, Lou Sutton is one of 3 schools on the list to be permanently closed. Several Lou Sutton families made public comments at the most recent 7-11 committee meeting. They shared concerns about what potentially closing our beloved neighborhood school would mean to our community. Parents passionately spoke about not knowing how their kids would get to school every day because the walk would be too far or kids would have to cross main roads. They spoke about how closing Lou Sutton would take away the closest elementary school for the downtown area, other personal reasons, and how closing Lou Sutton would leave a gaping hole in our community. We acknowledge that closing a school is the fiscally responsible thing for the district to do. Furthermore, we all understand that carrying alone won't keep our school open. What should be done by both the 7-11 committee members, as well as each of you, is that you look at the facts and the costs associated with the 3 schools on the list. Lou Sutton has the lowest staffing costs of all 3 schools and the lowest operating costs. Next year, when our enrollment increases as projected, costs will drop even lower. Lou Sutton has the classroom capacity and the land space to include more students. It seems very clear that the school with the highest operational costs and lowest enrollment should be closed. Another thing to consider is traffic flow. Both Rancho and Linwood have 1 main point of entry into their schools, Arthur and Sunset respectively. Lou Sutton has 5 main points of entry, Wilson, Maclay, Tamalpais, Diablo, and Center at Nevada Boulevard. By far, Lou Sutton has easier access to accommodate more traffic compared to Rancho and Linwood. Approximately 1/3 of our students walk or ride their bikes to school on any given day. Closing Lou Sutton would make it exponentially harder for families to get their students to school, which would have a direct effect on attendance rates and could even put the student safety at risk. Lastly, I feel like the board should be made aware that during the last 7-11 committee meeting, after Lou Sutton parents were the only ones who made public comments, Superintendent Koska made comments that parents from other schools also care, even though none of them spoke. Koska's comments felt belittling to the Lou Sutton community. While it is true that every school community will speak passionately about their own school, it felt unnecessary for him to minimize the time and energy it took for our parents to write their statements and stand before a public forum. As the board is his boss, we felt it necessary to bring to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your comment.
I mean, you're on.
Okay, so you're on. Go ahead.
Good evening. This is my friend computer. I don't have one. My name is Maria Emma Jimenez, and I'm from Mexico. I am here today because I hear one of our elementary school in Novato is closing, and our great Rancho school could be one. I want to express and share our successful experience as parents at Rancho Elementary School. We have 3 children, Josue 4th grade, Abraham 2nd grade, Carol in kindergarten. Our children start in Rancho in August 2019, only 1 year, 7 months ago. They and we only spoke Spanish. From the first day, we were supported with kindness and efficiency in our language. And the best of all are the results in our children. Day to day are attend satisfactory, the best the academic program of on their degree in English. The most important thing has made them feel part of community without the need to be divided into sub-communities by language or other cultures, which in the future may affect the self-esteem of children and the health development of the society. Also recently, as yard supervisor, I have had the opportunity to watch the children play. It is gratifying to see the children each cohort with diversity, origin, and language integrate as a community. As a parent, I highly recommend Rancho Elementary School. Its entire staff, led by Mrs. Nam, office staff, community liaison, each teacher, an entire work system. I request in the most considerate and respectful way the Rancho Elementary School remain open, working forever and ever, so that my children and many generations of the children have the opportunity to study there, thus benefiting the future of Novato and this great nation. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Jimenez.
All right, there I am. Hi, thank you. Hello, my name is Sasha Vargas King. I am a mother of 3 from Linwood. I'm here tonight to speak to you about our dual immersion school-wide program at Linwood Elementary. You all know Linwood is on the list for potential closure, but what you may not know is that our community was completely shocked by the news, and many still do not know nor understand it because the meeting itself was and still is not translated into Spanish. I am here to reaffirm your commitment that you as a board made not that long ago on April 25th, 2017, in support of Linwood becoming a dual immersion school. I was on the initial dual immersion task force, and I'd like to speak to remind you of the goals of our DI school. To plan for this program, a task force was formed of teachers, community members, office staff, and a consultant. We met monthly for about 2 years to plan. During that time, I met many of you. In fact, Superintendent Koska participated in the majority of the meetings and was committed to the success of the program and not closing Linwood at any point because there was discussion at that time about school closure. We are now in our 3rd year of our dual immersion program. Our eldest class will be in 4th grade next school year, which will put our numbers close to 300. Now that you know a little bit about the history, I'm going to remind you about what DI is about. Dual immersion is when you have classes that are made up of 50% native Spanish speakers and 50% native English. The language model is by design so the students learn from each other as language models, not just their teacher. The goal of the program is that all our students achieve bilingualism and biliteracy in both Spanish and English, academic success in 2 languages, and have global awareness and positive cross-cultural attitudes and self-esteem. You all may all be listening to this and saying, this sounds familiar. It does. It is actually the perfect solution for many of the problems plaguing NUSD, which is why you approved it. For years, our ELL students have been struggling to close the achievement gap, or what is now called the opportunity gap. And our district has not until now had a program that is proven to close the achievement gap, the dual immersion school at Linwood. For our students at Linwood, it is key. There is no other program out there that can make this claim. This is also directly correlates to NUSD's equity imperative declarative. Another goal I mentioned was global awareness and positive cross-cultural attitudes. This is directly connected to NUSD's 6 C's. To be able to do this, we asked families to make a long-term commitment to the program. And back in 2017, we asked for that long-term commitment from you. You were aware then, and I'm reminding you now, that this was not a program that was going to grow overnight, but it was gaining traction. More and more families are staying in the boundary and more families are transferring in. If you choose to break this commitment, you will cause grave effects larger than closing a single site. You'll have put over 250 children significantly behind their English-only peers due to the fact the dual immersion program.
You're out of time, so I'm sorry. Next speaker.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. My name is Cornelia Taylor. My sons Walter and James Bruckner attend Rancho Elementary and are currently in 1st and 4th grade. I'm also a principal education researcher at SRI International and hold a PhD in early childhood special education from Vanderbilt University. I'm here tonight to share information relevant to the 7-11 school committee school closure decision. Rancho is the most diverse elementary school in the district as measured by the Education Data Partnership Diversity Index. Rancho has the highest percentage of Asian students of any elementary school in the district. Rancho is a kind and inclusive community. Rancho is home to many languages, including Spanish, Hindi, Portuguese, Russian, Hungarian, Tagalog, Urdu, and others. Every morning as we walk our students to school, we practice saying good morning to each other in other languages. This small act lets the children know that we think languages other than English are fun and we're excited to learn from other cultures. Rancho is a model of how a multicultural, multilingual school can welcome all children and create an environment where children can learn from each other. Closing an elementary school is a difficult decision. Research shows that the transition to a new school impacts students' attendance and academic performance. There's a large body of literature on school closure which provides an evidence-based framework for making decisions about school closure. The research emphasizes the importance of moving displaced students to higher performing schools. Students that move to higher performing schools are more likely to maintain their academic performance or improve it. Review of the California dashboard data shows that Rancho is the highest performing of the schools being considered for closure. Rancho has the highest performance in math and English language arts and has the highest percentage of English language learners making progress towards English proficiency. As we downsize to a smaller number of elementary schools, we want to ensure that students have access to high quality curriculum they need to achieve high outcomes. The best decision for equitable outcomes in our community is keeping Rancho open. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much.
Michelle, when you're ready.
Yes, good evening, NUSD board members. You all know me from my role at Novato High School, but tonight I'm speaking on behalf of Linwood Elementary's dual immersion program. This is a program that is dear to my heart as a bilingual and Latinx family. We've been thrilled to be a member of this community and grateful, so grateful that the board's long-term support for the program. Recently, the 7-11 committee brought forward Linwood as a potential school closure, and as a Linwood alumni, the parent of Linwood children and an NUSD employee, I couldn't be more surprised by this shift as Linwood is not previously on the table. Linwood is the only public dual immersion school in Marin and has been the focus of years of work and expense to bring this high demand program to our community. So as an NUSD employee, I am, like you, committed to our equity imperative, making sure that every student has access to educational opportunities that challenge and inspire and prepare him or her for a strong future. To eliminate the campus with one of the highest English language learning populations and free and reduced lunch populations hardly seems equitable. And I fear that if this were allowed to close, we would be divesting both from the value of bilingual education and the value of the Spanish language and of the many cultures and people who speak it. Language is a gateway to another culture, to empathy, and to immersion, and to acceptance into a community. And some may argue that our program is extracurricular, that we could close Linwood because learning another language isn't really that necessary. And, they'll get that in high school, right? But that argument only views bilingual education from the lens of the native English speaker. But dual immersion serves more than those just looking to learn Spanish. It provides a proven pathway for our English language learning students to close the achievement gap. And this is precisely why you as a board have already brought this amazing program to our district. Equity, not just for those who have the privilege of speaking this country's dominant language, but to support those students with limited English skills. And the benefits, as you know, are present for all students. Bilingual education at the primary level has been proven time and again to increase pattern recognition, increase creativity, problem-solving skills, and I think more importantly at Linwood, to allow English and Spanish speakers to identify as a we, as opposed to an us and a them. So we ask that you continue to support our dual immersion program by keeping Linwood School open, to demonstrate your commitment to the nearly 3,000 Hispanic and Latinx families in Novato, because to take away our language is tantamount to silencing our voices. Let us know that our language matters just as we matter, and keep Linwood School open. Si retiran nuestro idioma, están silenciando nuestras voces. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Michelle, thanks very much.
Veronica, you're on.
Thank you very much. Really enlightening to hear this conversation from all of the parents who are speaking. Michelle, I feel really honored to be following you and grateful for what you shared, and hopeful that the board is going to take all of what you've all said into consideration. It's so important that the Hispanic and the Latinx community be prioritized, not cast out in the way that this closure, it sounds like, would do. And so I hope that the right decision is made. My name is Veronica Garretts, and I am a mother here in Marin County. I have a 9-year-old son who is biracial, and I am saddened at the way in which the school board had responded at the last meeting 2 weeks ago to the youth of color who courageously, many youth of color who courageously called in and shared their stories of feeling unsafe and unprotected, rather targeted by the SROs in schools and at Novato particularly. And as a mother of a biracial son, feel absolutely certain that I will not send him, now that I have the opportunity and choice and the privilege to choose where I send my son to school at this moment. I hope that lasts once he's a teenager and goes into high school. But I will not send my son to a school where there are SROs, and want to be sure that you're aware that parents are watching, parents with younger children who are fully aware of the school to prison pipeline and the relationship between SROs on campus and that pipeline. And I know there's been a sense of feeling like the relationship, the proposed relationship that SROs have with students on campus, that's the intention, for them to be building community with the students. But that just is not happening. That's what the youth of color have said, that they don't actually feel protected or supported by those officers, but instead feel targeted. And to move forward with continuing your SRO program, having heard so many youth of color speak out against that, is what Michelle referenced, is silencing, is incredibly disappointing. And I know you're trying to do the best that you can to make your school safe I believe that you're focused on that, and really hope that you don't let everything sail through now, but really take a hard look at making sure that youth of color are prioritized and kept safe.
Thank you very much. We got one more speaker. And this person will get a full 3 minutes, and then we'll be done with public comment.
Lori, you're on. I have to unmute myself. Hello, board and trustees. I'm so happy to be here again tonight. I'm sorry Superintendent Koska isn't here to listen to this. I'm Lori Johnson, a resident of Novato and a retired school nurse. Yay, Kiki, by the way. First, I'd like to thank the few of you and Superintendent Koska for taking a step back to learn more about the harm of SROs in Novato schools. I also wanted to say to Chris that I was thankful for him admitting that his report needs more information for the board. I've watched this board meeting for March 16th already many times. I'm so saddened by many of the board members' replies to the students of color that poured their hearts out to you. It blows my mind how most of you brought it back to you and your lived experiences, including Chief McCaffrey. By the way, MPD received at least 2 PRAs, which are Public Records Act requests regarding data regarding SROs, arrests, citations of students by ethnicity. They have extended the due date for all of the information many times, tomorrow being the final. We shall see. A few more points / questions. I'm wondering when the minutes will be posted for the meeting on 3/16/2021. It's unusual not to have them by now. I know you can't answer this, but I believe you have had to apply for the DOJ grant already. The due date was 4/14/2021. Hopefully you can decline the grant if you are chosen to receive it. Please do the deep dive into the information from students and residents of Marin County, not just the people who vote for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the last speaker we have for public comment time. So now we're going to move on to the next item. The next item is a public hearing, item number 9, public hearing. It's for the Novato Charter School renewal, and then it'll be followed by a discussion item for the same subject matter. So on a public hearing, this is a chance for public comment. We have 2 speakers. I'm going to open the public hearing, and then we'll hear the 2 speakers. Public hearing is open for the Novato Charter School renewal, and the 2 speakers, please.
Good afternoon. I'm just here to open the discussion action item for
Jen, stand by if you could, please.
Perfect.
We're taking some comment for the public hearing portion.
Comment first from the public hearing, then we'll open up the discussion.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Do we have 2 speakers?
Allie, you're on when you're ready.
Hi,
Okay.
good afternoon, board. I'm here to express my support for the Novato Charter School renewal. My name is Allie Quam, and I have 2 children, Alexander, who's 13, and Scotty, who's 12, and they both attend Novato Charter School. Alexander started there in kindergarten in August of 2013, and Scotty started the year after that. Since 2017, I have been a board member of the Novato Charter School, and I'm currently serving as the board president. In that role, I have learned firsthand how supportive NUSD has been to our school over the years and continues to be, especially most recently as we navigate these uncharted waters together. In particular, I appreciate how NUSD and the Novato Charter School have always maintained a positive and collaborative working relationship. And on behalf of the Novato Charter School parents, teachers, staff, and students, I want to express my sincerest gratitude for your ongoing and future support. Thank you.
Okay. We have a second speaker. We're working on it. Thank you, Ellen.
Craig, you're on when you're ready. Oh. Craig, did you drop off?
Whoop. Hard hat.
Hello, I'm here. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you, trustees and acting superintendent Farrar. My name is Craig Allender, and I'm on the board of the Novato Charter School and a proud parent of a first and third grader who do attend the charter. I am also, along with Allie, speaking in support of the Novato Charter School renewal. I first want to thank the trustees and Superintendent Koska for the continuing support of the Novato Charter School, which is the only publicly available Waldorf-inspired K-8 school in Marin County. I also want to thank the many NUSD staff and administration for a great working relationship with the Novato Charter administration team. On a personal note, I'd also like to thank Mike Woolard for taking the time to speak with me on several occasions with help related to facilities items on our campus and how those relate to NUSD campus as well. We look forward to continued support and strong relationships between the Novato Charter School and the Novato Unified School District for years to come. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. So those are the two comments. We're done. So hearing no more items, I'm going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Now we move into the discussion item for the discussion of the Novato Charter School renewal petition for the July 1 through June 2026 term. Jonathan, would you lead us in this conversation?
Sure, President Millerick. So good evening, board. You will be receiving information this evening from our interim assistant superintendent of educational services, Jen Larson, as well as the director of Novato Charter Schools, Nikki Lloyd, regarding a discussion for their proposal to extend their charter. Again, as President Millerick said, from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2026. This is discussion only. No action is to be taken at this time. So with that, I'd like to introduce Nikki and Jen.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having us tonight, trustees and Assistant Superintendent Farrar. As noted, we are here tonight to present the Novato Charter K-8 renewal petition. Included in the petition is all of the documentation and the charter itself. And the working document that includes our working MOU and lease agreement with the charter school. As mentioned, we've enjoyed a wonderful relationship with Novato Charter School over the past history of the school, and their current charter is due to expire on June 30th of 2021. We're here tonight with a renewal petition for the 2021 through 2026 5-year term. With that, I have Nikki Lloyd here, who is the principal and head of school, who is going to be presenting both the academic and core values of Novato Charter to just give you an update on where they are currently. And I'll hand it over to Nikki.
Thank you, Jennifer and Jonathan. Thank you for having me, as everybody sort of took my words from me. I really appreciate everything that Novato Unified School District does to support us, especially Ed Services, and especially during this time of COVID. This has not been a time where it's actually a benefit to be a small school. So many things are changing so quickly. So I really appreciate the support and their inclusion, if nothing else, just the camaraderie that I have enjoyed by being a part of those weekly DLT meetings. Additionally, I've really appreciated being a part of the PBE work with Jen's team. So again, it's so supportive, and I really appreciate that. I know that some of you know us very well. Dear Ross Millerick's been around since the very beginning. And for others, maybe we're not so familiar. So I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation. I should also mention that I have Kenny Blacklock here, who is one of our dearest long-term school employees to help me with any technical difficulties or if my internet goes out. So we'll hope that doesn't happen. Okay. And can you guys see my screen? Yep. Okay. So So this is the Novato Charter School, and as you heard, we're looking to be renewed for another 5-year term. This will be our 6th renewal with Novato Unified School District. Our presentation tonight will cover a bit of our history, our educational program, and then our student data. So Novato Charter School opened its doors in August of 1996. And we opened our doors with 2 kindergarten classes and 1 class 1st through 5th grade. After that, each year we opened an additional grade until we had our full program, which is 2 kindergartens and 1 class each for the grades 1st through 8th. Since our last renewal, it's really exciting that we have become a full member in good standing with the Alliance for Public Waldorf Education. And I would say back in the 90s, when a lot of these charter schools and in our area, a lot of Waldorf-inspired charter schools were first starting, it was a little bit of the Wild West, and there was not a lot of uniformity. And I'm so pleased that this Alliance for Public Waldorf Education is a nationwide organization that's come together and said, what are we? Let's really define ourselves, and let's have a standard and approve schools as on a path of membership. So we are a full member school. I believe we were the 3rd full member school in the nation. At this point, 92 or more of our families are Novato Unified School District residents. We have approximately 269 students, and we are fully enrolled. We updated our mission statement. So our mission statement is that we believe our students will positively impact the world. Our mission is to guide students to discover their individual gifts, build connections with others, and foster a love of learning, as well as our core values. And I appreciated that we actually did this around the same time that Novato Unified did as well. Remember that back to school professional development at the fire station. So I spoke about this, that we are guided by the core principles of Waldorf education. And in a nutshell, that means that we follow a developmental approach and put equal emphasis on educating the head, heart, and hands. And that by the head, we mean the intellect. By the heart, we mean that social emotional piece, which I know is really playing into a lot of our thoughts recently. For us, it also involves the idea of creating what could be different. So getting the student's heart or that feeling life involved, imagining how things could be different and maybe for different groups of people in history. And then finally, hands. That's a little bit more elusive, but when we refer to hands, that means the education of the will. So we want to make sure that we're bringing forward students that are strong-willed, that can see things through when the going gets tough. One of the biggest difference about our school is that our kindergarten is an open-ended, play-based program. It'll look very different than other kindergarten classrooms. Other differences is that our teachers loop with their classes. And what that means is that the same teacher stays with a group of students for more than one school year. It's generally 3 to 5 school years. It has been as long as 8 school years. And then, of course, sometimes it's 1 year or 2 years for one reason or another. We incorporate arts into all academic lessons. Art is not a specialized class, but it includes work in all of the math and the sciences. And we have a specialty teacher program, which includes music. All of our students learn how to play a stringed instrument starting in 4th grade. Spanish, and handwork. We have really taken up the multi-tiered system of support, and we've done a lot of that work with Novato Unified School District to support all students, all learners. And we've also recently, beginning July 1st, 2020, started to act as our own LEA for special education services under the El Dorado Charter SELPA. This move allowed us to hire a student services coordinator to oversee both the special ed program and the multi-tiered system of support. And with the need to mitigate student learning loss, that couldn't have come at a better time. So that's really allowed us to strengthen that program by having an individual fully committed to overseeing that. So a couple of our goals since our last charter renewal is to increase school-wide diversity and reduce barriers to enrollment. And I have listed here a number of the steps that we have taken, which has included the creation of flyers, distributing them. We eliminated the tour requirement for potential families. We did hold all of our tours over electronically via Zoom this year. We eliminated the rollover wait list. We have tours in Spanish. We have tours in the evening hours. And we've really engaged our Latinx community members to help spread the word and share their experience at our school. We expanded after school care, evening and before school hours. We've been using the teaching tolerance, social justice standards, and anti-bias framework, which I think is very valuable in addressing the needs of everyone, so everyone feels comfortable. Courageous Conversations, that's by the Pacific Education Group. Over 50% of our full-time faculty completed multi-day sessions. Partnered with Beyond Differences to include No One Eats Alone Day and Be Kind Online. Lots of discussions. And then again, our multi-tiered system of support, especially with that SEL learning. So we're pleased to say that we have seen results over the years. Since the 15-16 year, we have increased both our free and reduced lunch students and our English learners as well. I've included some slides on our CASP data in both ELA and mathematics. We've also joined with NUSD in using the Galileo assessments, that pilot this year, as well as doing DIBELS testing regularly as, again, we work to identify and mitigate learning loss. We have very low absenteeism rates and suspension rates. So distance and hybrid learning. I know that probably most of you are aware that we're a slow tech school. So the shift to distance and hybrid learning a year ago in March was a bit of a shock for our teachers and for our students. Previously, we had really worked hard to keep our students fourth and under off of devices. And we really introduced them in a very methodical, systematic way, starting in 5th grade, which then went through 8th grade and includes a cyber civics program. So we're working with them to use the platform as well as to the ethics of it. But with the shift to distance and hybrid learning, that's changed. We have had the Chromebooks for 3rd and up, and then we did have to order additional Chromebooks for our TK through 2nd grade students. We have aligned our schedule with Nevada Unified School District, and we did participate in the reentry task force meetings. When did those take place? Boy, last June where we met. And so it felt good to have our voice as part of that and to hear all of the stakeholders who joined those meetings as the plan was put into place for that hybrid to start the new school year out. And that is my presentation.
With that, there's an opportunity if the board member has any questions for us or the process, and then to know that we will be continuing to work with our legal counsel and with Novato Charter School to continue to review and update documents so that we have a full updated version of everything for a future board member for approval.
Questions from board members? Trustee Butler.
Yeah, hi, Jen. Can you just talk about the recommendation that is given by California Department of Education, if I'm correct? Let me just find the wording. Hold on.
Okay.
That it's in the middle tier You know where it was? It was on the renewal petition is where I.
So that would be the middle performing, where schools are identified in different tiers of performance. And so one of the roles that we play as a LEA oversight is looking, auditing, and evaluating both the academic and fiscal charter, portions of the charter. So part of that is going through all of the academic data and the programming that is offered through the school to ensure that it is both in alignment with the California state standards, but also that the student achievement is in fact in alignment with that tiered identification. As such, Novato Charter School is identified as a middle performing school, which means that they are kind of in that average range, and therefore they are approved or able to renew or ask for renewal for their petition.
Okay, thank you for doing that. And then could you talk about the financial piece, or Nikki can speak to it? Are you financially stable? And, you know, just some comments about your budget.
So I will refer to, I believe Laura is here as well. Nikki can certainly probably respond to some of those questions, but Laura and her team are specifically overseeing the fiscal audit and analysis of the petition.
Good evening, board. We've had a chance to review the budget, the latest second interim budget and multi-year projections of the charter school. And we are in agreement with all their assumptions and projections, and also their cash flow. We saw that there was a little bit of an error in the multi-year projections, but in our communications, they indicated that they provided an incorrect budget, and they have submitted a revised budget with multi-year projection. So we are in agreement that they are a viable, financially viable for the next 3 years period of the multi-year projection.
And the county reviews that, is that correct as well?
That's
Marin
correct.
County Office of Ed, yeah, okay. So there is another set of eyes, and they have an audit. It's just like us.
Absolutely, they are independent, so they do submit their budget reports and multi-year projections to the county, just like we do.
Yes.
Okay. And then just a comment that, you know, I read through everything and I thought this was a very thorough presentation to the board. You attached quite a bit of documents, which I appreciated, more so than I've seen in other past renewal periods. And I just thought it was well presented to us. And the changes that you made as a charter from 2016 to today, I think was phenomenal. You've done a lot of adjusting and working with the district more so than you ever have, I think, in the past, which I think is great. And you've always been a great partner, as we've all been saying, and our public speakers have said. It's never wavered from that. And you're a great asset to this district in one of the services we provide, and having this charter and the Waldorf-inspired education that you do provide. And I think you also are messaging, you've really improved that, in that Novato Charter School accepts all families. And as long as you're on board with the Waldorf-inspired, we accept all of it. And you're really making strides with that, and I really appreciate that. You've listened to this board, we asked for that, and you've made some great efforts. So thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Mack.
I'd like to echo a little bit of what Trustee Butler said. It's really no coincidence in my mind that I feel much better about the charter school since the last time. Largely, I think, Nikki, you've done a great job. I really appreciate not only your efforts, but your commitment to the mission that we're trying to fulfill here, to have the charter school reflect its community, and you're trying to make every effort you can. So I really appreciate that. One question I have for you is, it's what, we're looking at 20 plus years, pushing 25 years. And maybe this is more of a question for Mike, but how are the facilities holding up?
Well, we have really cared for our portables. So I'm not sure if Mike would like to comment. That's certainly not my area of expertise is facilities, but we have really worked very, very hard to take very good care of everything to make it last. Mike, do you want to add? Mike and I have talked a number of times about things.
Sure, Nikki, thank you. I got to say, these are probably the best conditioned or in shape portables I've seen due to the love and care and attention of the folks at Novato Charter School. With that said, they are portables and they were designed and built as a temporary facility. They do have a shelf life, and just even with all that great love and care and attention, they're going to need some work here in the next couple of years to keep them viable.
Is what I figured. I just thought it was worth us all to be thoughtful about that potential need down the road. But once again, thank you, Nikki, for everything you're doing. I really appreciate it. I think you're doing a great job, and I'm really happy to see that, as Debbie said, we're able to provide a great alternative service for our families who are really there for the right reason, which is an alternative way to educate their children. So appreciate that.
Other questions from trustees? Maria, are you?
Yes, thank you so much for this report. Very well done. I've always really enjoyed visiting the charter school and seeing all that you guys do. I especially want to thank you for the increasing engagement of the Latinx population. I think that's very important, and I so thank you for that. I also, you say that we worked very, very hard to keep the portables up. And when you say we, I know that you're also talking about the parents. Parents play a big role. I've always believed that the formula for successful school is parent involvement and engagement. And so I'd like to thank the parents for keeping up with not only the portables, but the gardens and the gates and this and that and everything else that you guys do behind the scenes that we may not know about. But I know they're out there working. So I'd like to thank that community, the parents. And I just have a quick curiosity about your Chromebooks. I know that you've increased on that, and students are due to the pandemic. I respect your vision and mission of your school, and I'm wondering what your goal is after the pandemic. Will you continue with those? Will you go back to your vision and goals and of the charter school?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, one thing is that we do have to now test all of our students on a device. So we used to be able to get a waiver, a paper and pencil waiver, so that we could honor our philosophy. So we would ask for that for our third graders and our fourth graders. And then we did have them start to take that CASP test on the devices in fifth grade. So now that we have to have our students testing on third and fourth, it feels only fair to introduce them a bit. Feels a bit unkind and cruel to suddenly say, here's the CASP test and here's a device, type on it. So this is actually a lot of conversation in the faculty meetings. How do we do this developmentally appropriately? And I know that that's not just our school that's struggling with that. I know that that's also in other schools. How do you teach second graders how to type? So we're working on that. We definitely, our goal is, now that we're returning to full on-site instruction, is especially for those little students, is to move away from that and go back to, as much as possible, aligning with our view of when it's best to bring that technology, which is starting fifth grade, third and fourth as we need to, just to reduce any anxiety as far as testing goes. So I hope that answers that, Maria.
It does. Thank you so much. I agree. I was just curious. Thank you.
I have Nikki, a couple of comments. One is, we started the charter school and the Nevada Unified School, and you said 1996. I believe it was Kim Galatolo and Laurie Smith were the two leads, and I believe your kids were in the school at the time. You were just a parent and got roped into this over time. Is my memory right?
You're right. It's kind of a strange piece. My daughter attended the first year in TK, and then it was easier to keep them in Sonoma County where we lived and where there were charter schools opening up. So I sort of had a hiatus away from Novato, but then I came back in 2012. But yeah, I was there before it opened and the first year, and I remember sitting in the room you're in right now, Ross, when the charter first was approved. So yeah, I go back a little ways.
That goes, well, and it was, so the Smith family had a concrete service and the Galatotals had a paint shop. This is local parents deciding they could do better for their kids and then doing an extraordinary amount of hard work to get it started. And you can attest how much hard work has gone in since then for a program that serves students in Nevada who want a particular view of the world, and it broadens the academic choices that people who live in Nevada have. And I am thrilled that the 25 years or 26 years that have passed have resulted in the service we can offer the children. And so there's one other thing I'm going to recommend to you, and this is just from I was reading, I just bought a book and I'm reading this book by this artist. And the art, and then he had some YouTubes, and he said, art is not drawing. He says art is learning to see. So this guy's in Mill Valley. His name is Ed Catmull. He runs Pixar Studios. So the separation of art and drawing and computers is not as far apart as you might imagine. And it's another local Marin County person putting their mark on what art amounts to. And I recommend his. The YouTubes are free. The book costs a few bucks, but another local artist helping us see the way forward. So with that, is there any other comments? If not, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you very much, Nikki and Jen, for the presentation, and we look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're absolutely welcome. So the next item we have on the agenda is 10B. It's the adoption of resolution 2020, number 23, 2021, supporting people with Asian ancestry. And I'm going to call on Jonathan Ferrer, and he's going to present this from his desk. He's not sitting next to me here. He's going to jump online and do the presentation from his desk. Jonathan, you want to take the lead on this?
Thank you, President Millerick. Good evening, trustees. Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, Acting Superintendent this week. And for the purposes of this agenda item, proud immigrant, Filipino, and member of the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Before you is a resolution to support people of Asian ancestry and to condemn harassment, violence, and hatred towards people of Asian descent. As we all know, over the past several weeks, there have been attacks targeted towards Asians and those of Asian ancestry, several of them even occurring here in the Bay Area. However, these attacks have been happening in our country for over 100 years, many of which supported by the American government through actions such as the Page Act, the Chinese Exclusion Act, People versus Hall, and incidents including the Chinese Massacre of 1871, the Rock Springs Massacre, the San Francisco Plague, Japanese internment, the portrayal of Filipinos as savages at the 1904 World's Fair, the persecution of Asian workers, the attacks of Vietnamese shrimpers by the KKK, the killing of Vincent Chin, the attacks of Koreans during the LA riots, and most recently, the murders in Atlanta and the local Bay Area attacks of Pak Ho, Vicharak Tanakari, and Xiao Zhenzi, and comments from elected officials in our country suggesting blame on Asians as the source of COVID-19. The list can go on and on. There are many more examples of attacks and killings that are both reported or not reported at all by members of the Asian community. Tonight, I read this resolution in the honor of all victims of all reported and unreported attacks, violence, and killings of Asians and those of Asian ancestry. Through this resolution, our anti-racist education resolution, our Novato Unified School District Educators of Color group, and with our ethnic studies curriculum, that the district continue to inform and educate our community and our scholars on the support we bring to our communities of color. The resolution reads as follows. Just want to do a screen check.
Yes, I see the screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Whereas basic human decency requires a respect and acceptance for people of all backgrounds, and the motto of the United States of America is E pluribus unum, meaning one of many, one. And whereas America's professed values include a commitment to liberty, equality, and justice for all, values the country has often failed to reach, but should never stop striving to attain. And whereas America's diversity is a source of strength and prosperity, and California's vibrant communities benefit from cultural contributions made by people of every ancestry. And whereas California is home to the largest population of Asian Americans, a group that has enriched the state in countless and invaluable ways. And whereas people of Asian descent have suffered intense discrimination since California's earliest days, including but not limited to the inhumane policies and treatment toward Chinese immigrants in the gold mining era, the Chinese Exclusion Act, the persecution of Filipino American workers, and the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. And whereas that discrimination continues today in the repugnant form of terroristic violence against Asian Americans, and a climate where Americans of Asian descent are being othered, targeted, scapegoated, and killed because of their race. And whereas an analysis by the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University, San Bernardino, found that all overall hate crimes in America's largest cities decreased by 7% in 2020, while hate crimes targeting people of Asian ancestry rose by nearly 150% during that same time period. And whereas in many school districts, fear of violence and harassment has been identified as a factor in low rates of return to in-person instruction among Asian American students. And whereas schools have an obligation not only to prepare students academically, but also to provide the foundation for personal growth and responsible participation in civic life. And whereas schools must avoid the quote model minority trap and the related tendency to overlook the circumstances of Asian American children merely because this student group on the whole demonstrates high academic achievement. And whereas our values of inclusiveness, humanity, and respect demand that we support students of Asian ancestry and the larger Asian American community in this moment of national strife and at all times. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Novato Unified School District condemns hatred, xenophobia, harassment, and violence towards people of Asian ancestry and commits to creating a supportive, inclusive culture that fully embraces students of Asian descent. Thank you. I can take questions or hear comments at this time.
Michael, the student trustee.
Great, comments?
Michael. Member
Michael, do I see your hand up?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I just had a quick comment from myself and from Eva Gogus, who I'm substituting for. In light of the recent spike in hate crimes towards Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and the United States' long history of prejudice and mistreatment towards this community, it is important that we address this racism not only within our country, but within our school district. This resolution is a promising first step towards a less harmful environment for our AAPI students and staff. My fellow student board member Eva Gogus has prepared a statement about this resolution, and since she could not be here tonight, she has asked me to read it for her. Eva said the following, quote, "There is this idea that Novato is one of the most progressive, socially aware towns in Marin, but from my lived experience, that idea is false. I can say for myself that I am tired. I am tired of the microaggressions, constantly being asked, 'Where are you really from?' or 'What are you?' Hearing comments like, 'Oh my God, look, I'm almost as tan as you,' or 'You look so exotic.' Seeing people pivot and walk the other direction just to avoid crossing my path. I'm tired of being gaslighted, being told, 'Calm down, it was just a joke,' as if I am wrong for being offended. Adopting this AAPI anti-racist resolution is a necessary step towards progress. This past year, the Asian American and Pacific Islander community has suffered from being blamed for COVID-19 to anti-Asian hate crimes, rising at an alarming rate. But this district needs to recognize that these microaggressions aren't new. This racism isn't new, and it needs to stop being normalized. We are not your model minority." End quote. Thank you.
Other comments from you? Okay, other Kiki, any comments? If not, well,
No.
thank you very much, Kiki.
Thank you.
Trustee Mackey? I'll move that we approve. Okay, do I have a second?
No,
Right, do I have a second? We have a motion, do I have a second?
no, I haven't edit, so.
I'm gonna ask you for an edit. Do I have a second? No?
I'll second.
Okay, Maria, second. So now your motion on the table with a second. Now, I understand, Diane, you want to edit? You want to make a change to the document? Is that a correct statement?
That's correct. So I believe in this, and actually I fully support the resolution. I would like to request that we make a small adjustment to it, and that would be, and it was actually touched on by Michael's statement from Eva, that we include Pacific Islanders. A lot of research I've done has the AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander, included in the resolution. So to the extent that we could include Pacific Islander, I would like to make that modification.
So that's a motion to modify amendment. Anybody want a second? I'll second it. So Julie seconds. We have a motion to amend by Trustee Gasson and a second by Jacobson. So this would amend the item so it includes the language for Pacific Islanders. So who the trustees who are in favor of adding Pacific Islanders? All in favor?
Do you want to amend your motion?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it.
I'd like to just get Jonathan's thoughts on that, since he was so central to writing this, and see if he has any concerns either way about that.
And then I'd like to hear from the student trustees before we take it.
Right.
Sure, Trustee Mack, thank you so very much for reaching out to me. I really appreciate that. In my introduction, I did identify myself as an immigrant, a proud Filipino, and member of the Asian American Pacific Islander community. Although I do not represent all Asians or Pacific Islanders, I know members of the Pacific Islander community at times would like to distinguish themselves as Pacific Islanders and don't necessarily distinguish or classify themselves as Asians. However, I would believe that most Pacific Islanders and Asian Americans do support the AAPI designation in a ways to identify their culture. So I am in support of this adjustment if the board sees it fit.
And so the student trustees' comments before we vote to add the additional language for Pacific Islanders. Pardon me, stumbling.
I'm also in support of the change.
Okay, good. And Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was very well said. Pacific Islanders deserve to be included in this resolution too.
So we're going to vote on the amendment to add Pacific Islanders to the motion. All in favor of adding Pacific Islanders? 7 here in the room, and the 2 student board members, Michael and Kiki, are voting yes. So the motion now includes Pacific Islanders. Now we're back to the primary motion. Do we want to take this resolution and adopt it? So we'll need a motion. We have a motion on the floor, which was by.
We've already amended it. The motion's already up in second.
It's up and seconded, and so now we have to vote on the motion. So we're voting on adopting the resolution. So all in favor of the resolution, including student trustee members? 1. Michael, you gonna put your hand in the air, or, you know? Yes? Michael, I don't see your vote. Oh, there it is. Okay. 7 in the room, 2 student board member advisory votes. It's adopted. Thank you all. I think my personal view is I've lived along too many years, and I've watched my family have friends who could not own property in the North Coast because the Chinese exclusion law did not allow them to own the properties that their own businesses were on. They had to find a white family to be the owners of the property so they could prosper economically based on their hard work. And I've watched friends who have had property removed from them because they were interned during World War II and couldn't pay taxes, and properties were sold off at tax sales, basically stripping them of their economic gains and their hard work over time. And it's just infuriating to me that we keep trying to put disadvantaged people who work so hard to move forward their families' well-being. And thank you for passing it. Okay, so that's that. So now we're moving on to Amanda Davis as adoption of resolution number 22, the 2021 Dolores Huerta Act, Amanda Davis. Jonathan, are you on the, I see Jonathan, could you introduce this topic?
Yes, sure. Thank you, President Millerick. So, trustees, I would like to introduce our interim director of student success, Ms. Amanda Davis, who is going to provide you with a recommendation for a resolution to honor April 10th as Dolores Huerta Day. And with more information, here's Amanda.
Thank you, Acting Superintendent Jonathan Ferrer. Good evening, trustees, President Millerick, and student trustees. It's really nice to see you all this evening. I'm here tonight to present to you the resolution number 22 for the 2020-2021 school year for Nevada Unified School District to proclaim April 10th as Dolores Huerta Day. I will be seeking your approval for this resolution. Are we good on seeing my screen?
I see a picture, whereas on July 18th.
Yep, perfect. Okay, so the resolution reads as follows. Whereas on July 18th, 2018, Governor Jerry Brown signed Assembly Bill 2644, introduced by Assembly Member Eloise Reyes, designating April 10th as Dolores Huerta Day, making civil rights leader and community organizer Dolores Huerta the first and only living person to hold this honor. And whereas Assembly Bill 2644 adds section 3722.20 to the Education Code, stating, on Dolores Huerta Day, all public schools and educational institutions are encouraged to conduct exercises remembering the life of Dolores Huerta, recognizing her accomplishments, and familiarizing pupils with the contributions she made to the state. Whereas Dolores Clara Fernandez Huerta was born on April 10, 1930, in Dawson, New Mexico, the daughter of Juan and Alicia Fernandez. And whereas Dolores Huerta became a school teacher in Stockton, California, and became conscious of the need for economic justice through seeing her students come to school barefoot, hungry, and whereas during the 1950s, Huerta met legendary community organizer Fred Ross Sr. and found her calling as an organizer, serving in the leadership of the Stockton Community Service Organization, during which time she set up voter registration drives, pressed local governments for barrio improvements, and founded the Agricultural Workers Association. And whereas Dolores Huerta's famed lobbying efforts were crucial in securing aid for families with dependent children and disability insurance from farm workers in the state of California in 1963. And whereas Dolores Huerta is the most prominent Mexican-American female labor leader in the United States, is the co-founder with Cesar Chavez of the United Farm Workers of America. And whereas for over 60 years, beginning in the 1960s, Huerta lobbied in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., organized field strikes, directed UFW boycotts, led farm worker campaigns for political candidates, negotiated the first UFW labor contracts, and has played a major role in the American civil rights movement. And whereas in 2002, Dolores Huerta founded the Dolores Huerta Foundation, which recruits and empowers grassroots leaders in low-income communities to attain social justice by organizing volunteer organizations called Vecinos Unidos to work on issues in education, health, the environment, civic engagement, and economic development. And whereas Dolores Huerta has received numerous awards, among them the California State Senate's Outstanding Labor Leader Award, the ACLU Roger Baldwin Medal of Liberty Award, the Eugene V. Debs Foundation Outstanding American Award, the Ellis Island Medal of Freedom Award, the Consumers Union Trumpeters Award, Miss Magazine's Woman of the Year for 1998, the Eleanor Roosevelt Human Rights Award from President Clinton in 1998. And whereas Dolores Huerta was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1993 and served on the board of regents of the University of California. And whereas in 2012, President Obama presented Huerta the Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in the United States. And whereas her rallying cry for Si Se Puede continues to call us to fight for the changes our communities need to thrive. And whereas young learners will benefit from having the opportunity to learn more about this leader for social justice and civil rights, empowering them to fight for fair representation, voting rights, and equitable education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Nevada Unified School District does hereby adopt this resolution to honor a national civil rights and labor leader in America on or around April 10th, Dolores Huerta Day. But further resolved that all public schools in the Nevada Unified School District are encouraged to teach about the life and struggles of Dolores Huerta and to conduct celebrations honoring the life of Dolores Huerta as a powerful force for social justice and empowerment for all. So at this time, I'm happy to take any comments or questions that you may have.
Questions from the board? Trustee.
It's all broken record here, but I'm going to move to approve this right out of the gate. But I'd like to also add that having the benefit of marrying into a family that has been heavily involved in the UFW movement, to this day, I think some of them still boycott crepes. I can say that I've grown a really strong appreciation for Ms. Huerta and what she's done, not only for the movement, but really for society overall. So absolutely endorse this, absolutely endorse our programs, our teachers, to do everything they can to expose our kids to this great leadership that she provided to
I need a second.
our community.
Jacobson, second. Student trustees, comments? No? Okay. Yes, no, okay. Okay, with that, I think we're ready. Do I have any public comment on this item? I don't, no? Okay, so we're ready to take a vote on this item. So I would call the, adopt the resolution number 22, year 2021, Dolores Huerta Day. Oh, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Seven in the room, and 2 student board members vote in the affirmative. Thank you all. I look forward to the 10th. Okay, we're moving on to the next item, which is board adoption of Measure G Bond Independent Citizens Oversight Committee. Jonathan Ferrer, you want to lead us in this item?
Sure, President Melrick. As you know, we have a Measure G Bond Independent Citizens Oversight Committee. They provide an annual report to the trustees, and we are providing that annual report with a recommendation of acceptance. Here to present that is our Executive Director of Facilities, Mike Woolard.
Thank you very much. Good evening, trustees. I'd like to start off with sending some regrets from our ICOC chair and vice chair, Eric Rosenberg and Ali Iqbal. Unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. They very much wanted to present this themselves. And other committee members weren't able as well. So fortunately, you're stuck with me, the last option. But tonight, really quick, I just wanted to present you an overview of the annual report that the ICOC voted to accept and present to you. They voted back on March 8th in their last meeting. And similar to the last couple of years, you'll notice some areas. I'm going to share my screen real quick to go over quickly, and you should have a copy. You all see the report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I have too many screens open on my computer, and want to make sure you're not looking at something else. So as you can tell, we start off the report with a letter from our chair, and this is where they describe the results of our audit from the Christie White & Associates. That's the accountant firm that, as you know, audits our general fund and as well as our bond funds. And this year, we're proud to say that we were issued an unmodified opinion with no financial statement or performance findings or recommendations. That's an accountant fancy way of saying we did a really good job and passed with flying colors. Very proud of that. The next page is the end of his letter where it sort of describes a little bit about what the committee does, and then how we had a little challenge with COVID this year, but still were able to get a lot of work done. We then go into a little bit of financials, and as you know, we sold our third series or Series C bonds this past year. So we only have $15 million out there to sell for our fourth and final series of bond sales out there in 2024-25. We then go into some of the allocations that you have approved over the past 12 to 16 months. We then get into sort of the summary of the annual report, what we did during that time frame from 2019 to 20. And then we always like to provide a little look ahead what's coming in 2020-21. And we also do our financials, expenditures. So as of the end of fiscal year of 2019-20, we had expended about $72 million. So we're coming up on not quite halfway, but we're making good headway there. And then the rest of the report, we divided into a couple sections of work that's in progress with some photos, the big projects at the two high schools in Novato, Center for the Sciences and Center for the Arts, the Fields Project, then at San Marin, the STEM building and their Performing Arts Center, and also the IT infrastructure upgrade project and the classroom toolkit, which you see actually as we went to put it out there in the classrooms over the summer. And then below is some of the infrastructure upgrade work that we've done. And of course, the continuation of the Chromebooks. We're now into our phase of renewal. We completed the first 3 phases of new purchases, and now we will spend the rest of the program years renewing those products. We also did the fans, GMO building, and get down to more of the deferred maintenance, field work, roofs, siding, sewer work, the sound system at the press box at the San Marin Field. And then we get into the completed projects, which you know, the AC work, and I'll continue on down. And another important page we do at the end there is what's coming in this coming summer. So in summer 21, we outline the projects that we're doing. And of course, we end with a big thank you to the voters in the Novato community for giving us an opportunity to spend this bond money. So with that, I'd like to entertain any questions, but before you is the approved ICOC annual report for 2019-20, and we are seeking board acceptance of this annual report.
Any public comments? None? Okay. Trustee Jacobson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I was able to sit in on the last meeting of this group and hear all about the audit, which was thorough and positive. Also, the members of the committee that do the oversight are a varied group that have a myriad of opinions, and I think that's really useful in this setting. And I also had the great pleasure of touring many of these buildings recently, and our entire community is much richer for having these buildings and fields and all these different resources. So thank you so much, Mike.
Other comments or questions? So my question for me, and then I'll go back to the other board members. I have the report in my hand, the annual report that you just got through reviewing on the screen. Is this going to be mailed to the community of Novato, or how is this going to get distributed?
Well, in the normal times, pre-COVID, we would do a combination of, we would do some mailings, we would post in public places, libraries, city hall, those kinds of places, and we would distribute to all of our school sites for distribution through their front office. This year, a little bit more restrictive on the public delivery. We do plan on doing a limited mailing and mostly going to online emails, emailing out a PDF version. We were actually working with Leslie in the front office.
The backup audit report that was done by our, I'm looking for the name.
Christy White.
Christy White, which also did the books for the district. the firm also undertook a review of the Measure G bond funds, and you said there were no exceptions found in the financial review. Is that a correct statement?
Yes,
So
sir.
that's the foundation, is the Christie White's audit report, on top of which the Oversight Committee's review, which, as we've heard this evening, represents a diverse group with different points of view and people looking for areas where we missed or omissions.
Yes.
And we have this report comes, I'm going to guess the number of pages, including photos. It looks like it's about 20 pages, something like that, the PDF version, to describe to the community what we did.
About 18.
With that, is there any other comments, or are we prepared to approve this report?
Okay.
Maria?
I just wanted to say I'm a person that is normally against unfair taxing, and in this case, I wanted to thank Novato taxpayers for making this happen, and thanks to this measure, our kids have been able to survive this pandemic because of the Chromebooks and the technology that has been provided with this taxpayers' money. So I want to thank the taxpayers' money. Again, I'm usually not in favor of unfair taxing. This taxing, but this was a good thing that we did, and I'd like to thank you for the hard work. And I've gone to our schools and seen what has been done with this taxpayers' money, and I'm very pleased. And so, thank you for all your hard work.
So, do you want to make a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that we approve. That we accept the 2019-20 annual reports for the Measure G bond, ICOC.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second, please.
Trustee Nell seconding. So with that, student trustees, any comments? Otherwise, we'll move to a vote. These are improvements on your campuses. Okay, so all in favor of accepting the ICOC's report? 7 in the room, and student advisory members. Michael, I see you, and I do not see Kiki. Did she drop off?
I think so.
Okay, yep. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so the next item is approval of award for exterior finish replacement project at San Marin High School. Mike Willard. Jonathan, you want to lead us into this?
Sure, President Millerick. So the board should recall that on March 2nd, the board approved staff to begin the public bidding process for the exterior finish replacement project over at San Marin High School. This is part of the deferred maintenance project that the district has been working on. So to present some additional information and a recommendation to you all is, again, our Executive Director of Facilities, Mike Willard.
Thank you. Again, well said. Jonathan, thank you so much. Basically coming to you tonight because we would like permission to award a contract that's over $1 million. And as you know, you previously approved this project with a $4.7 million overall project budget, of which $3.2 million was the construction budget. We are starting to see some of those signs of COVID impacts in a good way from our perspective, where the lowest responsible bid came in from CWS Construction Group at $2.475 million for the construction part, and verified references, and again, the lowest responsible bidder. And staff is requesting board approval to award a contract to CWS Construction Group for $2.475 million for the exterior finish replacement project at San Marin High School. And happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Questions from trustees?
I move.
Trustee Butler moves. So I have a second from Trustee Mack. All in favor? Michael, yes. Student board member votes yes, and the 7 trustees in the room vote yes. Approved. Michael, there you go. There you go. We're going to move now to a staff report, item number 11A. on a modified full return. Jonathan Ferrer is going to present, but he has to get to his office because he's got materials. And we have one comment. So while he's moving to his office, well, Jonathan, what do you want to do?
Thank you, President Millerick. Just want to make sure we have a screen check.
Yeah, go ahead. You make your presentation, then we'll take the public comment.
Fantastic. Good evening, Trustees. Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and Acting Superintendent this week. Proud to bring to you an update on the status report of our schools for the April 12th, 2021 modified full return. Just to give some context to the board, the purpose of April 12th modified full return opening was to ensure that we could do this safely. So tonight I'll go over some of the safety things that we have been working on at our school sites. We also wanted to ensure that we were increasing in-person learning time for all of our scholars. Zoom was no longer working for us, and this was a great opportunity for us to make this transition. Also want to touch on some instructional goals during this modified transition and outline some next steps for a full return transition, hopefully in the fall, and full return meaning conditions that were existing pre-pandemic. So in regards to safety, our warehouse has continued to receive lots of inventory regarding PPE, barriers, sanitizer materials, things of that sort. These are actually recent pictures taken at our facilities last week to demonstrate the amount of inventory we have in our warehouse, as well as the distribution of these supplies to our various sites. Specifically, at the ground level in our classrooms, we also wanted to demonstrate to you what we are providing in terms of classroom supply kits. So here's a picture of an actual supply kit that was taken last week. Basically, we have some disinfectant, materials for cleaning supplies, a hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, and face shields for our instructors. So all of those classroom supply kits are going to be sent or have already been sent to all of our classroom sites. In regards to the goal of increasing in-person learning time, we are making some transitions here. Effective April 12th, our elementary schools will be operating in person 5 days a week from 8:40 to 1 p.m. Our middle schools will also be operating 5 days a week. However, 4 days out of that week, they'll be in person from 8:20 to 1 o'clock. And on Wednesdays, they will be in person from 8:20 to 12:05 with 40 minutes asynchronous work. At our high schools, we're also making a transition to 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, from 9 a.m. to 12:20, with afternoon tutorials built into that schedule, and with Wednesday being an asynchronous learning day. We also had some focus on instructional goals, and at this point, I'd like to introduce our Interim Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Jen Larson, to discuss those with you.
Good afternoon again, or good evening. Thank you so much. So in shifting back to an in-person environment for a larger part of the day, we really wanted to focus on ensuring that we are ensuring high quality face-to-face instruction. So as you've heard throughout this process, we've had a significantly increased amount of time on screens. And so as we come back, we really want to make sure that we are leveraging the time we have in the classroom with our students to ensure that high quality face-to-face instruction, but also to reacclimate our students to a traditional formal classroom environment and engaging with their peers face-to-face, but also with their staff members and support members. In addressing our social emotional wellness, that will be first and foremost. In alignment with our culture of caring, we know that making sure that our students feel safe, feel welcome, and feel comfortable on our campuses, that really is the foundation. Without that, we're not going to have the success in learning and filling some of those opportunity and learning gaps that may have been experienced. So first and foremost, we will be making sure that the wellness of our students is both monitored but also attended to. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, identifying where those gaps are, both social, emotionally, and academically, some formative assessments. As you know, we have implemented Galileo. That has given us some opportunities to gauge where our students have grown and where there have been gaps over the course of the year. We'll continue with now some in-person formative assessments to gauge that, both academically and social emotional well-being. And then coming to a healthy balance of technology. We talked earlier with Charter around how are you reintroducing students to a classroom environment face-to-face versus technology. In NUSD, we've always provided a balance of technology and face-to-face instruction. It's been a little outweighed in the last year, so moving back to a healthy percentage of screen time for all of our younger students and moving up through the years as it's developmentally appropriate. Finally, with all of those formative assessments and identification of where our students are now that we have them back in the classroom, really timely and targeted interventions. You're going to see a lot of these goals move into our next year as we have our students back even more, and then focusing again on small group instruction to give time with their peers. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Assistant Superintendent Farrar to look more closely at our individual school sites.
Thanks, Jen. Before we do that, I want to acknowledge our maintenance and operations and transportation teams, as well as our fans teams. I reached out to them to really reflect on some of the great work that they have been doing and what they are proud of, as well as what are some of the things that they are tightening up on or working on in preparation for the April 12th modified full return. So our MOT department, as you all know, replaced all HVAC filters at the 4 sites with new HVACs. They are proud of delivering HEPA air purifiers to all classrooms not equipped with new HVAC systems. They provided antimicrobial hand sanitizers to all sites, and they procured PPE to supply to the entire district, and they are still delivering that PPE as needed. They've also purchased ion electrostatic disinfecting sprayers, those backpacks sprayers that you might have seen on TV for custodial staff at all sites. They're also proud of exploring a new disinfectant that we hope to get implemented here in the district. A couple of things that they are working on, obviously just maintaining PPE supplies as we go through them. And they are also helping sites with the layout of classrooms for proper distancing on April 12th. In regards to FANS, we all know the great work that FANS has done through this pandemic. They are very proud of the implementation of their grab-and-go meal service they are providing to our scholars. Also proud of the universal free feeding to those that are 18 and under in our community. They're also proud of the training that they have done as a team, as well as the inability to deliver a no-contact meal service. A few things that they're working on in preparation for April 12th is just the timing of service, how they will be able to execute their grab-and-go bags, meal preparation, and trying to bring forward a variety of grab-and-go lunch options for our scholars. I want to appreciate our Director of Maintenance Operations and Transportation, Tony Albini, and our Executive Director of Facilities, Mike Woolard. They conducted site walkthroughs of our campuses and provided a report to the superintendent in regards to observations they were making at the school sites. We also reached out to our principals of our school sites to get feedback from them, again, on the things that they've been working on, what they're proud of, as well as next steps they need to focus on for April 12th. So over at Hamilton, they are extremely proud of reallocating the desks and chairs. They painted social distancing markers to manage social distancing. They've restocked PPE in all classrooms. They've conducted parent information meetings, and they've sent out communication to the community explaining what the return will look like at Hamilton. They're working on one focus thing right now, and that is the acquiring some smaller desks for their upper grades. At Loma Verde, they're proud of their added additional safety dots for students to stand and wait around the campus. They're also proud of the planning that their teachers have done in regards to community building and revising plans for interventions with new groups, as well as revising their tiered intervention time. They've also reworked the student flow around campus, including recess schedules, and installed additional technology to assist with better access and visibility for their students. A couple of things they're working on over at Loma Verde, again, acquiring desks and tables and reconfiguring classrooms. At Lou Sutton, they are very proud and excited to have their students excited to see their classmates actually in person now. They're beginning to put desks into place and getting creative with their seating arrangements. They're also working together as a staff to brainstorm ways to support small group instructions aligned to guidelines. They're working on some communication to families about April 12th, and they're finishing the setup of all furniture in classrooms. Over at Linwood, they're proud of their ability to move the desks and rearrange classrooms as needed, securing additional barriers for desks, adjusting their recess schedules, and adjusting special education lunch schedules. They're working on more staging dots around their campus to support distancing, and they are working on family and community communication regarding the revised schedule. Over at Hill Education Center in Marin Oaks, they're proud of, as we heard from Principal earlier this evening, the student-created physical distancing dots all over their campus. They've spaced out the lunch tables to ensure physical distancing, and they had an assembly with all the students to ensure they know about the safety protocols and expectations while in person. A couple of things they're working on over at Hill. They're getting more desk barriers for additional protection, and they're working on getting the Crisis Go app for their students so they can self-certify their daily health. At that age, that is permissible. Over at Novato High School, they're proud of their school site specific safety protection plan already being updated and submitted. They've created directional map for student flow around the campus. They've ordered additional wipes for desks, and they have been sending out weekly communication to parents about April 12th. They're working on securing some additional desk barriers and the classroom setup of desks. Over at Olive, proud of moving desks and rearranging classrooms, securing additional barriers for desks, adjusting the recess schedules, and adjusting their special education lunch schedule. Again, what they're working on, similar to some other sites, acquiring smaller desks for upper grades. Over at Pleasant Valley, they are proud of returning all the student desks and tables and chairs and stools into their classrooms. They're proud of providing desk barriers for students and teachers, and proud of teachers experimenting with different seating arrangements to ensure distancing between students and to ensure smooth entry and exit in classrooms. They've also revised their bell schedule, recesses, and tiered intervention, and also proud of developing a special education schedule. A couple of things they're working on at Pleasant Valley. Parent information meetings are scheduled for later this week for parents of TK through 5th, and new procedures will be shared with staff hopefully tomorrow and on April 2nd for their April 12th modified return. Over at Rancho is proud of the desks and tables and the reconfigurement of their classrooms. Again, new recess and break schedule released similar to other sites, and their school site safety protection plan updated. They're working on the morning arrival. How are they going to increase the staging spots for students as well as family communication? They have a pending Zoom meeting scheduled for that work. Over at San Jose is proud of the leadership and staff meetings that they have arranged to discuss individual or group concerns over at San Jose. They've ordered additional desk barriers, and they've ordered additional wipes for desks, moved desks into classrooms, and they provided some support documentation to their staff on considerations for students as they transition to modified full return. A couple of things they're working on over at San Jose. They're developing and documenting physical zones for nutrition break, as well as developing a support staff plan for student supervision while students are on campus. Over at San Marin, they're proud of establishing sample rooms for their teaching staff to view in advance of moving to 4 feet distancing. They've invited staff to meet one-on-one with their administration to answer configuration questions, and students are coming to school and enjoy being on campus again. They're working on structures to support student learning when they may not have substitute staffing for teachers. Over at San Ramon, they're proud of interventions in small group instruction groups. They've configured those. They're proud of that all their support services are now offered on site, and the classrooms are set up for safe distancing and cohorts. They've adjusted their recess time and activities, as well as the safety task team meeting and updating their plan already and submitting that. Similar to another school site, they're also working on the morning arrival, increasing the staging spots for students. Over at Sinaloa, they're proud of outfitting all their classrooms with distance desks. They're zoning students safely around campus during brunch. Cleaning, sanitizing, and supervision protocols are in place, and their staff is engaging in hands-on, highly engaging in-person activities on campus. and they are excited to and proud that they are slowly making the transition to no more Zoom. A couple of things they're working on over at Sinaloa, ensuring that they have their food service plan in coordination with Food and Nutritional Services to make sure that plan is in place to distribute meals to children during lunch. And they're developing protocols to ensure the music and PE programs over at Sinaloa can continue to operate safely under new guidelines. So what does this all mean? This all means that hopefully we transition to a full return. And when the district says full return, that is pre-pandemic conditions. That goal is scheduled for fall 2021. But before we do that, there are several things that we need to do and that we need to continue to work on. That includes monitoring the various data points regarding COVID-19 transmission rates and infections, monitoring our county's tier status, monitoring the public health guidance that's coming in, and collaborating with our labor partners. Sites also may need to revise and submit safety plans as we progress from now to the fall. We also need to address lunch challenges. It's obviously a concern for the district to have 1,000, 1,000, or even 600, 700 students out on campuses eating lunch. So that is going to be a challenge that we will be addressing, and hopefully with the appropriate data and guidelines, we will be able to do that in preparation for the fall. We also will hope to provide an update to the board at its next meeting on April 20th. I want to thank all of our sites, our principals, and again, all the staff doing this hard work as we are yet again asking for another transition of them. I want to make it clear that the pictures that you saw in the slideshow today are actually representative of pictures taken at those school sites and facilities last week. So those are pretty live, so that it can help inform our community of what it visibly looks like at our school sites. With that, I'm more than happy to take any questions or hear any comments.
Board members, Trustee Aguilar.
Yeah.
I think we have some public comment as well. Sure. Okay, right. Well, go ahead, Marie.
Okay, thank you. So I said at my last board meeting that I'm here for all students, and that includes the Latinos as well. And I'm wondering about, and I'm a little bit worried about San Ramon, and I understand that San Ramon is one of our schools that needs a lot of help, and I understand there's 27 desks. Are those? And I apologize for not going there yet, but it is. I do plan to visit the schools, but is it how many desks are in a classroom, that like an average? Is it 27? And would you consider them being cramped, or is this are these pictures after you removed some and it's now a safe space for them to be there?
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Aguilar. So Principal Langford has reported to the district that there are no challenges or issues with desks at their site. As you can see, they're proud of setting up their classrooms for safe distancing. I would say that your number is pretty accurate. The district believes at 4 feet distancing between desks that we can accommodate between 27 to 30 desks. So I believe that San Ramon has accomplished that, as they reported that they're proud of having configured their classrooms, as well as not reporting any issues with any desks that issues are set up. San Ramon was actually one of our first sites that did a demonstration classroom with desks and invited individuals to see their setup. So I believe San Ramon does not have any classroom setup issues at this time.
Okay, that's good to hear. I look forward to visiting some of our schools. I wanted to, since we're in the topic of going back to school and all, and still with the Latino community, I understand that not many of the Hispanic community were able to either received or filled out the surveys that was passed out for regarding the return to school. And I just want to make sure that that we don't forget them, and that we partner. I mentioned this to the DLAC committee, and I just want to make sure that we are partnering with the DLAC community and getting their feedback through the DLAC, and other ways, just making sure that the Hispanic community is really getting involved as well.
Yeah, thank you, President Aguirre. That's a fantastic point in advocacy for that community. I will connect with our Director of Communications and Parent Engagement, Leslie Benjamin, regarding the surveys that were received. I do know that the initial survey data that I reviewed indicated that a majority of the respondents were our white parents. So there may be an opportunity for us to grow in this area to hear from our Latinx communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I do see that it references desk situations at numerous sites. How is that being approached?
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Jacobs. A great question. So we all have to remember that pre-pandemic, we had sufficient desks and tables for all of our students. We've unfortunately had a decline in enrollment, so we didn't necessarily need to purchase additional desks or chairs. It was simply a logistical operation on where we could move and relocate desks. If desks and tables were relocated from one site to another site, and it's now an opportunity for us to reclaim those desks and chairs and bring them back. So that's the process that our facilities, maintenance operations and transportation team are addressing now. A lot of our sites kept their desks and chairs. However, some may have been relocated or moved to other sites. So we're in the process of getting those desks and tables back to the appropriate sites.
Great. And then on your last slide around pre-pandemic full return, so I see that that's a goal for fall. Is there any stronger language we can use to assure our community that everyone's objective is for full return in the fall?
Yeah, I think that's dependent on the factors that I listed here. I know Superintendent Koska in a previous board meeting committed to our community that this was the goal for fall 2021. Obviously, we have to take a look at all these conditions. Obviously, we have to consult and discuss with the board this possibility as we move forward. So that is the goal. However, we need to make sure all these things line up for us to be able to do that, similar to what we have done for the April 12th modified full return.
And so if lunch has been cited as one of the challenges here, what's the plan to overcome that hurdle?
Yeah, we're hoping to receive some guidance from the county and from public health on how to address lunch. The county just revised their Marin County School Guidelines, their 30-point plan for March 23rd, 2021. Unfortunately, in that 30-point plan, there is no addressing specifically how to accommodate lunch for hundreds and thousands of students. So we hope that we can work with the county on getting some guidance in regards to how to handle that. Right now, our plan is the grab and go system to ensure that our community is fed while at the same time still making sure that everybody's safe with distancing. So long answer short, to get some guidance from the county on hopefully how to address the lunch situation.
So in the event that we don't have a solution from the county, are we going to be able to find solutions at each site that may be different and not as easily facilitated, so that this is not something that hinders us from full return in the fall?
I would say yes to that. I would believe that we, again, need to look at these talking points or these data points to see if we are able to do that. And I believe we are positioned if the county does not give direction on how to provide lunch. Usually if they are silent on that, then the districts can look into their systems and operations that they have in place to see what they could do. The good news is there isn't any decisions from the county of, absolutely do not provide lunch, to X amount of students. So we do see an opportunity if the county does not provide any guidance, our ability to create our own guidance and direction on how to address the lunch challenge.
Okay, and then last question. Would it be fair to assume that unless there was guidance from public health to not open school, we will have school open?
I would agree with that 1,000%.
Thank you.
I have a question, but a comment too. One of the things that came out of that last Marin County Office of Education, Marin County Public Health, was that they have no intention of shutting the schools down again. So if we changed our tier color, it didn't mean that the schools would be closing. So that was and I'm sorry I neglected to mention that at the time, but that was like a fundamental piece that was holding me up, is that with our community's previous behavior, we fluctuate, and we're doing so well right now. Who knows over the summer? That was an element that caused me concern, but hearing it from public health, that wasn't going to be something that would shut us down, again, was hugely promising for me and our ability to have our kids back in school pre-pandemic in August. Obviously with the lunch issue being addressed in the meantime. One comment I was going to make was more directed to what Jen Larson had mentioned, and I was really pleased to see that student wellness was being acknowledged, and that it was noted how important it is to be able to have our students be successful in school. If they don't come, their emotional wellness is not addressed, it's hard to have our students learn and be successful. So my question, it's more of a comment that to have us make sure when we come back for our next board meeting, and when we have a further update, I would really be interested to hear what we are doing, what steps we are taking. The comment that I have written down that was Jen said was safe and welcomed on our campuses. So I would welcome hearing and learning what we are doing for our students and our families to make them feel safe and welcomed, and continuing that to go into the balance of the school year, but also what are we doing when those kids come back? Because, we all have kids that are having a really hard time right now. So what are the supports that we're looking at? Are we working with partnerships? I know there's families and communities that have great suggestions and ideas, and it would be great to start engaging that conversation with our community. So thank you for the report and the update.
Well, other comment?
Yeah, me.
I have a Debbie, and then I have one public comment, and then I have a few comments. Debbie?
Can I go? Okay. Jonathan, 2 weeks ago at our last board meeting, Superintendent Koska mentioned one of the hurdles was the use of tables, and I know a decision was made on that. Maybe I missed it in your presentation tonight. What was the final call on use of tables in classrooms?
Yes, that's a great question, Trustee Butler. So we actually received an update from the county that the desks that we have were permissible to be used as students face forward to one another with barriers in place. So we did not have any issues with that. Once we got that guidance, we just reported to our principals that the inventory that we have would be permissible through the use of barriers.
Thank you. And then the other question is there a need for any additional staffing, even though this is a little bit of a shorter day than our typical 8 to 3:30 or 8 to 3? But is there additional staffing needed for the playground, for the classrooms?
Yeah, that's a great question. So part of the COVID funds, if you want to call it, that we are going to hopefully receive does allocate the support for instructional support, specifically our paraprofessionals in classrooms. So our educational services team, along with human resources and business services, will be identifying what additional positions, if any, we will be moving forward to either provide temporarily or long-term to address any learning loss and any supervision needs that might be needed at their sites. We have not identified any at this time, but there will be a process similar to the LCAP process on identifying those positions, and we will be providing a report with the board. There actually will be a required board approval of how that money is spent in the next month or so.
Okay, thank you.
So I have some comments, and we have a public comment. So I'm going to take the public comment first, and then I'll offer my comments. One, right?
G'day.
Good evening.
My name's Cass.
Welcome back.
G'day, guys. My name is Cass Adler Ivanbrook, and I'm a teacher at Nevada High School. I teach seniors, and I'm writing to share my concern with you. over the recommencement of full in-class teaching in high school starting 12 April 2021, based on my experience as a upper school teacher over the last year or so. The board's determined that all students not enrolled in VLA shall be present in class, and a student who is not in VLA but present on Zoom shall be deemed absent unless they have a valid excuse. So what I want to know is, what constitutes a valid excuse? Is the desire not to come to school because of the fear that a student might become a vector for possible COVID transmission in a multi-generational household with small living spaces a valid excuse? What if my student says that they have now found their groove with online learning and want to continue it, that Zoom is working for them, or that they have social anxiety and wish to avoid what they think of as a crowded classroom, or to avoid bullies? Are these valid excuses? If these and other reasons like illness, a professional appointment, or the like are all valid excuses, then I feel confident that the district is doing its best to support the emotional and intellectual well-being of our students and their learning. The designation of FIL or VLA doesn't matter a hoot then, and if this is your understanding, then I agree with you. Is this your understanding, board and superintendent? I ask my questions because this is not the case. If the district wants a sharper and harder boundary, then I think the board has a serious problem. Much has been made of some of the deterioration in the well-being of our students since March 2020. This is true in many cases, no doubt. What I am not hearing about is how many other students have thrived being removed from school environments that they have previously experienced as either stressful or actually hostile. Not all of these students have been signed up for VLA. These stresses and new stresses will still exist when students return physically to school. Why would some students want to return to this? At the moment, many students are voting and speaking with their bodies to stay home and learn virtually, even as the opportunity is being presented to them now to come in person to school. There are reasons why students are doing that. They are speaking to you and I. Don't silence them by ignoring them. Learn from them. Why should we now deny students and families who did not sign up for VLA last year when it was first offered the opportunity to continue learning virtually? Many parents were not reachable to set up the VLA option then, either due to language, work, or socioeconomic challenges. This is an equity issue. Further, there are many unknowns about virtual learning back in July 2020. We didn't know who would benefit from virtual learning and who wouldn't once teachers and students got the hang of this style.
You're at 3 minutes, and the clock stopped you. Thank you very much. Let me offer some comments, and then I think we can move on to, what is this? We need to approve this thing.
There's no approval, President Elric.
So here's my comments. Everything is changing really fast. As much as we all like to think we've got this grand plan, in the last week, on the 23rd of the public health report, we went from 4 feet between elementary kids to 3 feet. Although it's still a classroom choice. We went from barriers absolutely required to barriers are required if you don't do a bunch of other things. And the language, I read it 5 times last night, and I still can't tell you what it means. In addition, the CDC director on morning news was showing graphs showing that with additional variants coming forward and people deciding to go to the beach for spring break, the virus is turning around and heading back up in terms of infection. And as much as we would like to have permanent promises for this institution to deliver, the underlying issue is, will the citizens of Marin County conduct themselves in a way to stay safe and with this virus? And 7 of us here in the room and the staff supporting us all are wearing masks, and we have dividers. We're doing the stuff that we need to do, that medicine, the medical community has said, if you do these things, the virus load will drop, the virus transmission will drop, the number of variants will drop, and we can be successful. My hope is that with the school's leadership and other public agency leadership and the community's cooperation, everybody conducts themselves in a way that reduces the viral impact in this community. We know there's some exceptions. We know if you participate in out of area sports and you are on a traveling team that's doing whatever sport it is up and down the state of California, and you're traveling through high infection areas, those infections come back locally. The health department reports this. They say the source of infections in Marin County have been identified with travel outside of the area, including youth travel, not just adult travel. Stuff's coming back. So the real issue to me is how can we police the activities to make sure that the 8,000 students between the charter school and our school and the private schools in Novato, how can we police, and police is the wrong word, how can we encourage this community to conduct itself in a way to make sure that those students get the benefit of going back to school while the rest of us pay the price of wearing a mask when it's uncomfortable and we don't like it. So I think we're on a good path. I don't hear discussions in this town where people are having, at least on the newsreel, public arguments about it's their right to infect everybody in their neighborhood, and we don't have that going on. But we have to be paying close attention to the health. And I know Trustee Gasson is going to go down and help participate in the clinic. And the more, I mean, that without that free labor, and I don't mean, everybody's volunteering to make sure that teachers and other critical employees get vaccinated, and the rules are changing. But there is not an approved vaccine for 16, I think 16-year-old is the youngest.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 18, but they tested it for adults first. It might work great for kids, but no one's tested for kids. That's going to come maybe by August. Maybe we will actually see this. But I lived through polio, and I lived through measles, and I lived through childhood diseases that kill people. And maybe this now is, and this has killed a lot of people. But asking, I don't think the ask is to our superintendent and teachers to step up and be in school in August. I think the ask is to the community to do everything possible so the teachers can safely be back in school with their kids in August. And I think it's an achievable goal. So I'm thrilled with the report. I'm going to have to call in you in a minute. I'm thrilled with the report. I'm thrilled with the progress. I see lots of fine adjustments between now and June 10, where we do some learning. We're going to meet again on the 20th, but it seems to me the ability to make those adjustments and maximize the benefit to our kids means our faculty has to be working really hard, which gets me to my second thing that I'm going to talk about. And then I went on the district website and I said, oh, good, high school kids are back, just like I saw on the slides. High school kids are back 4 days. And I looked at the charts and they haven't been updated yet. I got promises from our staff that those schedules will be corrected for all 3 high schools as part of the get ready for the June, April 12th. I'm sorry, I just keep slipping them up. April 12th release, and that will be updated currently. But we as we just saw, there's lots and lots and lots of work to get ready for this thing. And it's moving desks, it's organizing teachers, it's making sure the schedules are clear, it's making sure we're communicating to the kids. And in the middle of all this, we're serving 25,000 meals a week to our community. This school district is feeding an awful lot of people, which normally would have gotten free and reduced lunch, but they do a grab and go, and they have meals that take them through dinner and over the weekend. And so there's a lot to be done. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this. I think it's wonderful. I'm glad to see staff is moving forward. But I think the community still has lots of work to do to make sure that this all these promises we're talking about making can be kept, because the community's keeping its part of the bargain as well, which is if there's something that leads to infection and we know it, don't do it. If you're in one cohort group, stay in that cohort group. I think the rule is you get to play one sport, not 2 sports. Well, honor that and whatever the rule is, the county's got a rule, follow the rules. Don't play out of area, stay in area. They have a metric so they know what causes the problems and they're pushing it. That 30-point plan is critical. So I'm excited about this. We do have one, we got the public comment.
I have a question.
Yeah, so I think there was a couple of more trustees' comments and we can move to.
Well, actually, I just want, based on the comment we just heard, I do have a question of clarification. Because I just want to make, maybe I missed this. I'm just getting it wrong. But it's my understanding that any policies regarding mandatory in-class participation, that's a site decision. That's not something that we included in our resolution that I recall. It was more that we will be in class, but with regard to giving children, students the option or not, I don't think we covered that. I mean, maybe
Jonathan can answer that,
but it's my understanding that that's really a site-based decision and also probably governed by law. So I just want to get clarification on that.
Okay.
Yeah, Trustee Mack, you are accurate in your assumption there. The district is liable for its students' attendance, obviously. So if students are not reporting in person as they have been classified as a flexible in-person learning student, the district is obligated to report that absence to parents and for our records. In regards to students possibly being instructed in VLA and flexible in person, the board may recall we have agreements with our labor partners on what that looks like and how we go about doing that. And we have honored that to fidelity. Any modifications or changes that a site feels may be necessary, they are encouraged to work with their sites and the district office, and the district office will then work with its labor partners to see if that might be a possible shift in practice that they're going to make. But right now, our high schools, with the exception of a slight minutes modification, are all aligned in the same practice in terms of schedule, in terms of attendance.
Thank you for the clarification. That helps.
Okay, good. Trustee Jacobson, and then Trustee Butler, did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, two things. One, I also wanted to ask about our speaker. I've heard those comments from other teachers, and I don't know if I feel like that was clarifying, Jonathan. I'm sorry. You said that the district has rules around it, but the site can modify. So a lot of these teachers are already teaching in both modalities, so it doesn't affect the labor partner agreement.
May I get clarification on the question?
Clarification on the answer? I guess it doesn't matter.
I think the answer, if I might speak for Jonathan, because I have the same question. My understanding, the answer is that by virtue of being enrolled in FIP, flexible in person, you are bound to attend class in the modality in which it is being delivered. And those classes are being delivered in person. If you're not attending in that modality, you are absent.
Unless you have a reason that you've explained, which was something that was said in there.
Well, that's regular absence. Right.
Interesting. So my other comment was around sort of what Ross was saying and the community involvement in our safety and therefore school. I don't know how much messaging there's been around what you're supposed to do if you are traveling. And I'm wondering if maybe that's something that the district could push out a little more strongly. I know a lot of families that are traveling out of state next week, and I don't know that they are supposed to quarantine for 10 days after that and or get tested after 5 days upon return before they send their kids back to school. So it might be important that all of our sites are pushing that out pretty consistently right now.
Jonathan, could you take that as
I know Chris included it.
Yeah, Trustee Jacobs, we have done that in the past when we have received some strong recommendations and guidelines. So I don't feel that that's an issue for us to do again. I'll more than happy to work with our communications team on what that message should sound like, but it's something we've done before. So I don't see it as a problem to do again for spring break.
Yeah, okay. I hear in this room that we're concerned.
Right, and it has been, and actually I think one of the things that maybe to take a step further, and I know that like Pleasant Valley takes Chris's whole
Yeah.
weekly and puts it into her newsletter, but I would say even to the extent we could encourage sites to actually have a separate thing. If you were traveling for this break, please do this. And I don't want to make it even more complicated, but the comments made by public health about travel teams and being the significant cause for our cases here was just really eye-opening for me. And I think that that it may not be, if I know my girls used to do softball, but they may not even be aware that that's where a lot of the spread is coming from. Those communities may just not know themselves too.
If we can identify those traveling teams and find a way to communicate to their leadership so they at least have, maybe that's a good thing for us to do, you guys think?
Pretty hard to get your arms around all of them. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're organized by
radar.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. Okay, that's a hard, I'm trying to think of a way to, magically pick the right population and push them.
The point I would make is the ones that are most known are the least likely to do what you just said, are the least likely to leave this community.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are some guy with 12 kids playing baseball and they're all paying, big money and then they go.
And they're invisible pretty much. Yeah, okay.
And I just wonder if we could also add any messaging around, it doesn't matter that you're vaccinated, you still can bring something back. Because a lot of these families that I know that are traveling are like, oh, I'm vaccinated, it's fine. But that's not necessarily the case.
CDC just said yesterday, Sunday night actually, that they feel very strongly that you will not transmit.
Oh, okay. Well, changing every day.
Well, I mean,
Okay, can I travel out of state then, please?
I'm still wearing my mask.
But the young kids are not, nobody under 16 is
Sure,
vaccinated.
that's adults, actually.
Nobody under 16 is vaccinated. So all of that's grand, but anyway, okay. Are we done with this? So do we want to, so I don't even think we need to accept the report. We received it, we're good. And so we have one more item. We're ready to move to the next.
Thank you,
item.
Jonathan.
Thank you all.
Okay, so we're going to 11B, enrollment and capacity. Jonathan?
Thank you, President Millerick. Good evening, trustees. Jonathan Ferrer, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, Acting Superintendent for the district this week. Before you is the annual update for you on where we are in terms of enrollment and potential space for our school sites next year. Please note that capacity numbers do not change year to year for this update unless there is significant change to establish class sizes or construction. Please also note that these capacity numbers may differ from ones you have seen through King Consulting. That's because the process for determining capacity can vary. And for the purposes of this update, we have always defined capacity for elementary schools as being calculated using class sizes, while capacity for our secondary schools is calculated based on physical space. Our sites that are demonstrating or have exceeded capacity are Loma Verde, Lou Sutton, Linwood, Rancho, San Ramon, Novato High, and San Marin. Our other sites are demonstrating potential for enrollment space. Please also note that these numbers are very fluid and is just a snapshot in time, and that projected enrollment specifically is subject to change and can either increase or decrease as we get closer to the beginning of the year. This is a staff report item. No action is required. I will display the graphic here so we all can take a look at it. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Questions from the board, Trustee Mack?
I just want to reemphasize what you're saying, Jonathan. So really, these numbers are not so much based on physical space, to repeat what you said, so sorry to be redundant, but based on really the number of teachers that are working at each campus effectively and their associated class size.
So for secondary, yeah. So Trustee Mack, for secondary, it is actually based on physical space. For our elementary capacity, it is determined by elementary class sizes. So the amount of students that potentially one teacher can provide instruction to, based on the agreement we have with our labor partners in regards to class size.
Got it. So I guess what I want to do is state the obvious for anybody who's watching this. These numbers have nothing to do with what King Consulting is presenting for the 7-Eleven committee.
That's correct, Trustee Mack. That's actually a conversation the district hopes to engage with the board this staff update annually, whether it is appropriate to continue to do based on potentially conflicting capacity numbers that we may introduce from various vendors or experts or agencies for various tasks and projects, such as the current 7-Eleven committee. These capacity numbers that you see here are historic for this update specifically only.
Got it. Yeah, I just want to make sure that nobody runs with these numbers and said, wait a minute, the schools are talking about closed or past capacity. They're not.
Yes, the only purpose of this staff update is to honor the staff report annually we are required to provide to the board regarding this data. It is not used for any other purposes other than to honor that process.
Okay. So with that, is there any question, Trustee Jacobson?
You just said that for high school, this is capacity based on site space. How do we deal with those negative 34 and 43 students then?
Yeah, so some of our facilities at the high school have portables on campuses. So the introduction of additional spaces or the repurposing of spaces to accommodate the overflow of students.
Okay, thank you.
So actually, to extend on that question just a little bit, to bring up the point, Jonathan, do those numbers for the two high schools reflect the addition of the space provided by the new buildings?
No, that's a great question, Trustee Mack. We have not calculated that. If we continue with this staff report for next year, once those spaces are active and being used for next school year, I believe the capacity numbers and the capacity numbers will shift for next year's report.
Because I know our objective, of course, is to end with 0 portables on the high school. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So this report is going to change next year because some of the reasons this was developed 2 decades ago need to be revisited. So this is the last time I think we'll see this report in this form, and I'll be having I'll remind our new superintendent what this old trustee knows about how it got here and why it was valuable, and maybe we can bring something back is a guidance document going forward. This was designed to make sure all the schools were within a bound of what we thought was a proper educational head count, to make sure that they were functioning similarly across all campuses. And now that we're doing the other review, maybe that needs to be put in the air too, and we need to talk about it again and refresh all of us together instead of relying on the history which this does. So I think it's something we need to have a conversation about, and I'll work at bringing it forward to us. With that, that was the last action item we needed to take tonight. If there's any last word, otherwise we're going to adjourn this meeting. Let me see if I can. Okay, ready? We're adjourned. I'll see you all on the 20th of April.